Welcome, everyone. This is your friend, the DN What If, here with another exciting fanfiction. Today, we're diving into the story of what if Deku took Bakugo's advice and woke up unharmed. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more fanfiction content just like this. Now, let's get started with the fanfic. Izuku stares at his desk in silence. The overwhelming urge to flee the room keeps him from listening as the teacher talks. All he can do is wait for the freeing ring of the last bell. After what feels like an eternity, the bell finally rings. Izuku jumps from his seat and hastily begins shoving his notebooks into his book bag, not even bothering to zip it before dashing towards the doorway. I did it! Kaken was still in his seat, last I checked, so I beat him out of the classroom. Izuku smiles to himself, reaching out to open the door, only to feel a hand grab the back of his shirt. Where do YA think you're going, Deku? The grip on his shirt collar tightens, and with a jolt, Izuku is forcefully yanked backward. He winces as he lands with a painful thud on the ground, instantly surrounded by mocking laughter and sneering faces. When things like this happened in the past, Izuku used to look to his peers or teachers for help. But he had long since abandoned his hope of being rescued. He silently shuffles backward on the ground until his back bumps into the cold wall. His gaze remains fixed on the floor as the rest of the students shuffle out the door, their snickers filling the rapidly emptying room. With an air of discomfort, the teacher exits the classroom alongside the last of the students, looking anywhere but at Izuku, his avoidance painfully evident. Izuku honestly couldn't blame the man. If their roles were reversed, he wouldn't want to see his pitiful student huddled on the floor either. Two others, not including Bakugo the boy who previously threw Izuku to the ground, stand in front of the door once the teacher is out of sight, barricading Izuku's only escape. You were in such a rush you forgot your notebook, shitty nerd. Izuku lifts his gaze to Bakugo's towering form, and in his hand is a notebook with the cover reading Hero Analysis for the Future number 13. Good thing you don't need this sheet anymore. As if you could ever be a hero, the blonde sneers as he sets off loud explosions in his palm, burning the notebook. Bakugo had destroyed Izuku's notebooks in the past, but as frustrating as it is, the words were usually still legible afterward. So when it happens this time, Izuku offers no resistance, keeping his expression blank and his eyes locked on the ground. Noticing Izuku's lack of reaction, a look of anger flashes over Bakugo's face, but it quickly dissipates as he glances at the open window beside him. Izuku's eyes widen when he realizes what the other is about to do. Jumping to his feet, he lurches forward. Bakugo tosses the notebook out the window. Damn it, Izuku curses, I wasn't fast enough. He watches as his precious notebook falls into the fountain below. As the green-haired boy is busy mourning his lost notebook, Bakugo takes a menacing step forward, leaning in with a sneer. Izuku instinctively lifts his arms to shield his face as Bakugo draws closer, only to have the threatening hands end up on the shoulders of the smaller boy. A surge of heat emanates from Bakugo's hands, and Izuku braces himself for the impending explosions. This time, the explosions are much more powerful than any Izuku has endured before, and he cries out as Bakugo's palms scorch through his shirt. He could feel the agonizing pain surge through his shoulders before the deafening blasts even reached his ears. His skin bubbles as the taller boy removes his hands. Izuku sinks to the floor, biting down on his trembling lower lip, attempting to prevent any audible sobs from escaping. The trio of tormentors laugh cruelly, making their way toward the exit. Just before stepping through the doorway, Bakugo halts. Oi Deku, if you're so desperate to be a hero, I suggest you pray for a quirk in your next life, then take a swan dive off the roof. And with these words, Izuku is left alone, abandoned in the empty classroom, surrounded by the echo of laughter and the sickening stench of his own burnt flesh. Izuku slowly trudges home, his dripping notebook in hand. I could try and rewrite it into a different notebook, but nearly all the ink has smudged, Izuku sighs as he inspects the pages. He is well aware that Bakugo had crossed the line in the classroom. He knew that it had to have been the last straw. Kaken no. Bakugo is no longer my friend. I suppose he never really was, at least, not since we were, but now this relationship is beyond repair. After what he said. Izuku stops once he reaches the shade under a bridge, deep in thought. Maybe I should listen to him. It's not like anyone would miss me. Maybe I'd actually be making people's lives better? No, I couldn't do that. Izuku is so lost in his suicidal thoughts that he doesn't notice as a dark, slimy creature slowly creeps out of the sewage vents behind him. He doesn't realize it at least, until the sludge has surrounded his body. In an instant, the creature covers Izuku's mouth and nose. Panic floods his wide eyes when he realizes he can no longer breathe. Izuku thrashes around violently in a desperate attempt to get out of the slimy embrace, clawing at whatever creature is restraining him, but his attempts to break free seem to have no effect, and he is quickly losing both strength and air. Izuku's lungs scream, but his limbs feel much too heavy to continue his struggle. Maybe this is for the best. Maybe if I stop fighting, I'll be able to leave finally. Suffocation might not be the ideal way to die, but I guess it's better than jumping off a building. Izuku's vision goes black. There's something hard under his back and a tapping sensation on his face. Is this the afterlife? What would be hitting me after death though? Ignoring the protests of his pounding head, Izuku cracks open one eye, only to find the face of All Might a few inches from his. The hero is lightly slapping his face, in an attempt to wake the unconscious child. Izuku sits up quickly, almost headbutting the hero in the face, eyes blown wide. All Might? He wonders aloud, before beginning to mutter to himself, I must be dead then. Why else would All Might be here? He doesn't even patrol here. I must be dead, there's no other reason why I'd wake up and immediately see the face of my childhood hero, that can't be a coincide dash. Fear not, young one, Izuku's muttering is cut off by All Might's booming voice. You are not dead. For I am here. He flashes his signature smile before abruptly turning. And now, I am leaving. Thank you for helping me catch this sludge villain, you were a great help. Izuku stumbles to his feet, he can't leave yet. I have so much to ask him. I need to at least get an autograph. His vision starts to blur and fade to white with his sudden movements, causing the kid to stumble forward, desperately reaching out for anything to steady himself with. Unfortunately for the both of them, Izuku had grabbed onto All Might's leg as the hero leaped into the air. It took nearly a full minute before the other realizes he has a child latched onto his leg, causing his smile to falter slightly. What are you doing? Let go of me. I can't let go. If I let go now I'll die. Ah, I suppose that's true. All Might looks down as if only just noticing the height they've reached. I'll land on a building and safely let you down there. They settle on a nearby, tall building and Izuku lets go of All Might, though he feels unstable on his feet from the flight. There we go, all is good and well. Now, I must go. Goodbye, my boy. All Might turns again and begins walking toward the edge of the building. Wait! Izuku cries, desperation lacing his voice. Can I be a hero too? Can I be like you? I'm quirkless but I still want to save people with a smile, just like you do. All Might pauses near the ledge and turns his head slightly before responding. No. What? I'm sorry but if you're quirkless, you cannot be a hero. There are villains that you will never be able to fight, you won't be able to save anyone as a quirkless. Try being a police officer or fireman instead if you really want to help. Izuku feels his world crumble around him as he watches All Might, his childhood idol, fly away, leaving behind shattered dreams and a sense of hopelessness. How could he have been so dumb? Of course, I can't be a hero. Of course, I can't save anyone. I'm useless. Just a useless effing Deku. Tears streamed down Izuku's face. Of course he was crying, who wouldn't after their lifelong hero had just torn their heart in pieces and crushed their dreams. What do I do now? If I can't be a hero, what can I be? Is there really any purpose in life now? Izuku slowly drifts towards the back edge of the building, as if drawn by some invisible force. He gazes down into the abandoned alley below, full of trash cans and rats most likely. Bakugo's words replay in his head, over and over again. Take a swan dive off the roof. For the first time in his life, Izuku doesn't overthink his decision. Instead, he pivots on his heel, inching them closer to the edge. With outstretched arms, Izuku tilts his body backward. He falls. Izuku's eyes flutter open to find himself sprawled out on the cold, hard asphalt of an empty alley. Blood stains his clothing, and he gingerly rises, using the support of a wall beside him to keep him steady on his feet. How am I still alive? He looks up towards the building that was supposed to end him, perplexed. That should have been tall enough. He scans his body for injuries but finds none. Even if it wasn't though, I should still be injured at the very least. Izuku looks down at his blood-stained school uniform and the matching splotch of blood on the ground a few feet away. What is going on? Izuku manages to make it home before dark, though he's unsure of the time since his phone broke after the fall. Upon entering his home, Izuku feels he can relax. Though it's far from being a conventional house, just an abandoned building he found years ago, but over time Izuku has grown to love its worn walls and creaking floorboards. He has old hero posters up on the wall of the room, a few All Might ones, and a Put Your Hands Up radio poster. The posters mainly sat over his bed, a dirty twin-size mattress with a ratty blanket on top. Other than that, there wasn't much in his house. There was an old bathroom on one side, but the sink barely worked and the mirror was shattered. The house was mainly one large room, his bed in one corner, the bathroom across from it, and on the other side of the room was his living room, containing only a couch and rug. Izuku sat on the old couch, tired from the long walk home. The sofa had been there since he first moved in at the young age of 8 and he never bothered to replace it. His mother had left him their old home when she left, but he felt so alone and small in the empty house. Within its walls, he felt a suffocating sense of solitude, as if he were a mere speck in an expanse of emptiness. The young 8-year-old had to resort to selling nearly everything in the house in order to pay for school and food. Piece by piece, cherished possessions were sacrificed in the pursuit of survival. Yet after, Izuku found himself feeling an overwhelming sense of loneliness in the empty house. Initially, Izuku had sought refuge in his thoughts, allowing them to fill the vacant spaces. However, his mind nearly always ended up bringing up memories of past abuse instead, causing young Izuku nothing but distress. When he could no longer live with the empty walls being a relentless reminder of his father's violent outbursts and his mother's vacant gaze, Izuku decided it was time to move out. Now, he sits in his room alone, wondering what to do. Could it have been a fluke? Maybe something caught me or helped me. Izuku exhales a weary sigh. He still doesn't know the time or date, or even how long he had been unconscious. He does know, however, that he is extremely hungry. His stomach started grumbling as soon as he was conscious, but he attempted to ignore it. Maybe I should try again. Yeah, maybe buildings don't work like they said they do in movies. And that is how Izuku found himself standing atop a bridge. He was tired, ready to get everything over with. He didn't want to have to deal with the gnawing emptiness in his stomach or the headache he just couldn't seem to get rid of. So he stepped off the bridge. When Izuku woke up again, he wasn't confused. No, he was angry. Frustration boiled within him, at the realization that the world stubbornly denied him the release of death. His clothing was soaked and he was freezing his butt off on the bank of some river and the world wouldn't let him effing die. Izuku took no time marching back home, a long walk since he didn't know where he was, but he was fueled by his seething rage towards the universe, making it go by in a flash. He arrived home, grabbed his school tie, and was dead in minutes. Only to wake up again, hours later. Over the next week, Izuku tried again and again, confronting death in various forms, but the universe seemed to hate him, because every time, he would wake up again. Covered in water, or blood, or sweat, with his head pounding and his stomach eating him from the inside out. Izuku screamed and cursed and cried. Yet he still woke up every time, his anguished pleas falling on deaf ears. Izuku had realized early on that dying healed his wounds. After the bridge, he noticed his shoulders no longer stung, and when he tentatively reached to feel the raw skin, all that was left was rough, numb scar tissue. Izuku also realized this when after he would wake up, he had fresh new scars adorning his limbs. He wondered if he had any on his face, but with his only mirror in pieces, he had no way of knowing. And he sure as hell wasn't going to go to a public bathroom when half his clothes were coated in his own blood. Seated upon the cold ground, Izuku traces his fingertips over the new scars that traveled from the base of his wrists to the inner recesses of his arms. They don't hurt to touch, but it's painfully obvious that they're newer than the others, since they still have a bright pinkish color. He crosses the words bleeding out from his notebook. The only thing he hasn't tried was being shot, but seeing as guns were illegal in Japan, he wasn't sure he'd ever be able to try that one. Not unless he was mugged or something of that sort. A weary sigh escapes Izuku's lips. This isn't working. He has killed himself in every way he could think of over the past week. Maybe it was closer to 2, but his phone is still broken, so he has no way of checking. Why can't I just effing die? This isn't fair. Tears fill his eyes as he looks at the bright moon, shining in the dark sky. He can't bring himself to yell at her directly, so he keeps it to himself. I can't even sleep because of this stupid quirk. I know this should be a dream come true. I know I'm being selfish. I finally got a quirk like I always dreamed of, but I don't want it anymore. Tears begin to roll down Izuku's face. Take it back. Please. Just take it away, he whispers, pleading with the universe. I don't want it. Please. Time stretches mercilessly as Izuku remains perched outside his house, unable to sleep. He figured that his body responded to death as if he were sleeping, so after he revived, his body was always fully awake and re-energized. He pulls himself to his feet, slowly wandering around the surrounding neighborhoods, unsure of what to do with himself. He stopped going to school after his first attempt, he doesn't have hobbies, and he can't even sleep. Well, he used to have hobbies. Izuku used to analyze heroes and their quirks and battles. He used to research everything he could about All Might and other heroes he idolized. But now, his All Might posters, along with the remaining merch that he refused to sell when he was 8, sit at the bottom of the trash can. Izuku is pulled out of his thoughts by a quiet cry for help. A jolt of urgency courses through his veins as he tries to listen to where the sound came from. With every step drawing him nearer, the muffled cries of a young man echo from the alleyway walls. Izuku quickly runs towards the pleas for help, his legs moving before he can process what he's about to do. His footsteps halt abruptly in front of the alley as Izuku realizes he's witnessing a mugging unfold. Eyes wide, unsure of what to do, he calls out to the men in front of him. Wait! Stop! The words tumble forth before Izuku can stop them. The mugger turns his head, his gaze dropping from his intended victim and landing on Izuku. That's when Izuku notices the gun. What a kid like you doing out here so late? And why are you trying to interrupt my work? Izuku gulps, his eyes widening with both fear and determination. He notices that behind the mugger, the man who was getting robbed is scrambling to collect his belongings. He needs more time. In a split-second decision, Izuku resolves to try and give him that time. He tries to channel his inner Bakugo and contorts his face with a sneer, his voice laced with a defiance he never thought he possessed. What are you gonna do? Kill me? Go ahead and shoot me then, beach. Izuku takes a step forward, pressing his head against the cold steel of the gun. It doesn't matter if he shoots me or not, so why not try and buy the poor guy some time? And it works. The mugger is taken aback by Izuku's words and actions. He steps backward, a confused look on his face, before he straightens again and presses the gun harder into Izuku's head. Izuku sees the victim has already fled the scene, so of course, he smirks up at the mugger. The last thing Izuku sees before it all goes black is the terrified look on the other's face. That shouldn't be there, he thinks. Why does he look so afraid? He's literally holding the gun to my head right now. The shot echoes through the air, shattering the stillness of the night. Well, at least I'll get to see if I can die by gunshot. He can't. God effing damn it. Izuku had secretly hoped that he would be able to die if it happened to be by the hand of another, but it seemed that wasn't the case. At least I was able to help the other guy escape, he thinks wistfully, looking around the empty alley. And that's when it hits him. Wait, I saved that guy. Maybe I can save others too. Maybe I can still be a hero. Izuku jumps to his feet in excitement, although he instantly regrets that decision as he begins to sway, having to lean back against the wall for support. But he doesn't let that stop him. I can. I already saved someone. All Might said I would never be able to save anyone, but he was wrong. I can do it. I will do it. It was the middle of the day and Izuku had blood on his hands, literally. Blood also splattered his face and tangled in his hair. Sighing, he pulls up his hood, grateful that at least his jacket was mostly clean. Keeping his head down, he began the long trek home, trying to avoid drawing any attention, a tactic that surprisingly worked better than he had expected. I guess it's true that people remain oblivious to the world around them, consumed instead by their own lives, or however the saying goes. As he nears his home, he passes by a park. Izuku is no stranger to this place, in fact, he's visited it many times before. It's near a cat cafe, so he often watches the kittens through the window late at night when he has nothing better to do. Today though, the park is different. It's abuzz with activity, filled with various stands and booths, along with a stage and banner reading heroes in the park. It seems like some sort of fundraising event. Izuku makes a conscious effort to avoid it the best he can, keeping a safe distance without going into the streets. As he walks, he notices the cat cafe from before seems to now have an outside area. The cats frolic around, carefree in the grass as they enjoy the company of the occasional human who sits nearby. Izuku forces his eyes to look away, not wanting to draw any attention to himself. He begins to walk again, quickly glancing around to see if anyone had spotted him. That's when Izuku feels a pair of eyes watching him. Raising his gaze, his eyes narrow as he spots a tall man standing by the cats, curiously staring at Izuku. He has long blonde hair and a kind face, but from a distance, that's all Izuku can see. The man begins to wave, but Izuku hurries away. He glances down at his slightly bloody clothing, just knowing his face must be stained red by now as well. I can't be seen in public like this. Upon reaching home, Izuku quickly grabs a new notebook and stuffs it into his bag. Changing into a fresh hoodie, he attempts to scrub the lingering blood from his hands and face as best he can. Once satisfied, he slings the bag over his shoulder and leaves his home, heading toward one of the few libraries in town. Izuku knows this library is usually quiet and empty, so it should be a safe place to write, instead of in the suffocating walls of his home. After being cooped up inside for a week or so, Izuku had begun to get tired of seeing the same things every day. Once he enters the library, Izuku makes a beeline toward the back, settling himself between the towering bookshelves, hidden from view. It seems my revival time is different depending on the way I died, so if I can only figure out the timing of each, then I can get more information. He takes out his notebook and begins to write. For the next few hours, Izuku sits by the dust-covered bookshelves, mumbling to himself as he writes. He begins to track the amount of time it takes for him to revive, the ways and number of times he has died, along with the drawbacks and effects. Quirk name, Resurgence. After a fatal encounter, the user is granted another chance at life. After this process, all previous wounds are healed, leaving only scars. The duration of revival varies depending on the severity of the injury that caused the demise. The larger the wound, the longer it takes. Reviving can cause slight memory loss, fragmenting memories of the events that happened directly before death. The emotions associated with those forgotten memories remain. In the time between death and revival, the body rests but doesn't nourish itself, leaving the user well-rested but hungry upon awakening. Over time, I believe that the time taken to revive will shorten and the scars will be more healed with practice. I also believe it is possible to learn to keep all memories, not just the emotions. Izuku smiles down at his analysis. Then, lower on the page, he includes his death counts, with the ways he died and the time it took to regenerate. Once finished, he begins planning how he can help people on the streets. He finds multiple books on fighting techniques, vigilantism, and underground heroes, spending his time in the library reading as much as he can, taking down notes as he goes. As Izuku reads, he gets so caught up in the new knowledge that he doesn't notice the purple-haired boy staring at him from across the library. As the boy slowly inches closer, Izuku finally looks up, startling at how close the other had gotten without his noticing. His eyes scrutinize the stranger, trying to detect any hint of threat, but finding none. The tall boy holds a lazy expression on his face, as if disinterested in the world. The only other noticeable things about him is his hair, which is a soft shade of purple and a disheveled mess around his face and his eyes. Those eyes look piercing yet kind, with dark eye bags underneath, making it seem as if he hasn't slept in days. Those eyes are also looking right at him. Izuku blinks in surprise as the boy walks a bit closer, offering a small, lazy grin. Do you like underground heroes? Caught off guard by the question, Izuku freezes. Why is he talking to me? And why about underground heroes? Could he be an underground hero? Could he be looking for me? Izuku's thoughts are cut off by a laugh. He looks up to see the tired boy cover his mouth, though not fast enough for Izuku to miss that he had been laughing at him. Did I say that out loud? Izuku asks hesitantly. Yeah, but don't worry, I'm not an underground hero. I just noticed the book you were reading. Okay, a wave of relief washes over Izuku. Good. He quickly stands, grabs his bag and notebooks, and slips the books he had been studying behind the shelves. If I hide them here, then I can easily find them later. Hey, sorry, I didn't mean to laugh at you, the purple-haired boy begins, startled by Izuku's sudden departure. Izuku ignores him, putting his head down and beginning to walk away. He only pauses for a moment when he hears the other speak again. You, have something on your face, by the way. Just wanted to let you know. He doesn't sound as if he's making fun of him, but Izuku still doesn't turn around. Instead, he veers toward the bathroom. Izuku hasn't seen his reflection in weeks, and it was probably for the best. As he stares at himself, he discovers remnants of blood still staining his face. His previous attempts at washing it off must not have been as successful as he had hoped. But besides that fact, there was something much worse staring back at him in the mirror. A pale pink scar traces a jagged path across his face, deeply etched into his pale skin. It begins on the right side of his face, following along his jawline before continuing up towards the bridge of his nose, stopping just short. Izuku stares at his reflection for a long time, not quite believing that it's him. Where did he get this scar? Maybe from the bridge? Or the building even? I don't know what else it could be. He sighs, accepting that he cannot change the past, and shifts his gaze, directing his focus toward different features in the mirror. His hair is long and greasy, the strands reaching towards his chin and nearly covering his eyes in the front. Delving deeper into his observation, Izuku notices another scar on the tip of his left ear. This one is smaller, but it looks almost as if the top part of the ear had been cut off, though Izuku isn't quite sure. I wish I had all the memories from my deaths, that would make everything so much easier. Once again, Izuku is left cursing the universe for not helping him out more. Once Izuku gets home, it's already late in the night, but his sleep schedule is so effed that he doesn't even notice. Instead, he begins to train. During his time at the library, Izuku had been able to devise a training plan for the upcoming months, including exercise and fitness, training, and diet. That last one was going to be tricky, but he would manage. All throughout the night, Izuku practices the fighting techniques he had earlier researched. He repeats the moves over and over again, tirelessly. Without any real equipment, Izuku decides that the sturdy tree near his home works as a sparring partner. For hours on end, he practices different kicks and punches. He practices until his knuckles are bloody and his legs feel as if they can no longer support the weight of his body. When he finally ceases and takes a moment to rest, the first rays of dawn grace the horizon. Izuku smiles to himself. He doesn't think about the blood trickling down his fingers or his aching muscles. He doesn't think about the bruises he can feel forming on his legs or how he can barely move without falling over. No. Izuku smiles. After all, this is the first time since his encounter with All Might that Izuku has survived through the night. So despite the pain, he smiles. Having visible scars can prove advantageous in certain situations. For example, when Izuku finds himself in a store, trying to discreetly stuff as many non-perishable food items into his pants and jacket as he possibly can, and the cashier is desperately trying to avoid staring at his scarred face. When Izuku approaches the counter to purchase a bottle of water, he decided it was better to buy something small so the guilt didn't completely eat him up inside. He notices the cashier's gaze flickering over his face. Seizing the opportunity, Izuku tilts his head slightly, eyes wide, as he puts on his most innocent voice. Is there something on my face? He asks, reaching up to rub at his unscarred cheek. The cashier's eyes widen, a mixture of surprise and discomfort evident on her face as she rushes to reassure Izuku that his face is perfectly fine. She practically shoves the bottle and receipt at him, her gaze averted. Izuku can barely keep the amusement out of his voice as he wishes her a good day, stepping out of the store. As he walks home, Izuku goes over his previously created plan. He's got enough food to last a month if he eats only 2 meals a day. He has some black clothing he got earlier as well, including a hood and a mask, which he hopes will be enough to conceal his identity when patrolling. Izuku decides, once he reaches home, that tonight will mark the first time he will go out and patrol the surrounding neighborhoods. He knows fully well that he's being reckless. He's only been practicing fighting for about a week. He knows he will most likely die tonight, along with many nights after. But I can't stay cooped up inside all day, I need to do something. I need to help people. Besides, Izuku is decently fit already and knows his greatest strength lies in his speed and agility. I've got years of running from Bakugo to thank for that. While physical strength might not be his forte, not yet at least, he's got good stamina and can run for a long while. And with his training, he should be gaining some muscle soon. I made sure to get lots of protein at the store, so I should be all set. Once the sky begins to darken, Izuku begins his patrol. How long do I stay out here? How do I know when it's time to leave? He sighs. I really need to get a new phone. Standing outside the abandoned building, he calls home. Uncertainty gnaws at him and Izuku is unsure of how to begin. He glances around, hoping the trees will tell him what to do. He sighs again when they stay silent. This is going to be harder than he had originally thought. A lot of books said that underground heroes will go on the rooftops. That seems to allow them to have the best view of the streets without being spotted. I should try that. Climbing onto the roof proves difficult for the short boy, but he continues struggling until he makes it to the top. As he gazes across the rooftops, Izuku realizes that he will have to jump across in order to get around. A feeling of hopelessness bubbles up in his chest, but is quickly pushed down. It's just a small jump, I can do it. Izuku tries to remember what he learned, bouncing lightly on his toes before running forward and propelling himself through the air. He lands heavily on the neighboring roof, sliding slightly down, but he smiles triumphantly to himself. Okay. That wasn't too hard. As the night wears on, Izuku starts to get a hang of jumping the short distance between rooftops, figuring out how to land quieter and how to get a better grip on the roof. He stumbles and slips a couple of times, even falling off once or twice, his determination tested by the unforgiving surfaces beneath his feet. However, each stumble, every mistake, only fuels his determination to improve and refine his movements. With every successful landing, his confidence grows, and he slowly becomes increasingly attuned to the rhythm of his surroundings. After about an hour of traversing the rooftops, Izuku hears a faint noise from a nearby alley and suddenly remembers why he's on the roofs in the first place. He quietly makes his way to the source of the sound, peering over the edge of the building. He spots a man holding a knife up to a smaller lady, his voice a low murmur. Izuku squints, trying to get a closer look. He has always been fascinated by knives and over the years has done plenty of research on them, and although he doesn't know everything, even from the distance he can see the incompetence in the way the man holds the weapon. Izuku scoffs quietly to himself. The grip on that is all wrong. With one kick, anyone could get that out of his hands. With this knowledge, Izuku drops down from the roof as close to the man as he can, swiftly kicking his foot out. It connects with the mugger's arm and the knife goes skittering across the concrete and into the darkness. What the dash, the mugger begins, caught off guard by the sudden assault, but he is quickly shut up by Izuku throwing another kick, this time at his stomach. As the lady seizes the opportunity to grab her fallen purse before quickly fleeing the scene, the mugger doubles over in pain, clutching his abdomen. "You little brat," he wheezes through gritted teeth, before grabbing something in his pockets, but the man doesn't get the chance to use whatever it was he grabbed. In seconds, Izuku swipes the mugger's legs from under him. He binds the bigger man's arms behind his back, tightening them painfully, and leans his knee on the other's back, pressing him into the ground, before examining the items in the mugger's clutch. Izuku looks closer at the assortment of gadgets. What are these? Why the hell would I tell you? Izuku pushes his knee into the man's back with a little more force. Fine. Okay, fine, I'll tell you. Just cut it out. The man lets out a breath of relief when Izuku lets up on the pressure. There's some gadgets I got at this market, just harmless trinkets. I got some flashbangs and smoke pellets, I even got a few stun grenades too. Hey, tell you what, he continues in a rushed voice. I'll tell you where I got them if you'll let me go? Izuku thinks for a brief moment before nodding, go on. The man proceeds to describe a complex underground market that sells different weapons and support items. He tells the young boy when it's open and where to find it, continuing to give detailed information until Izuku finally nods in satisfaction. Okay, I told you, now let me go. In a minute, be patient. Izuku grabs the items out of the man's clammy hands and stands, walking away, despite the other man's yells. I know I saw one around here somewhere. Ah. There we go. Izuku walks into the phone booth, quickly dialing after leaving the police with an anonymous tip about a mugger and the location of the captured man. Izuku leaves. The night continues, it must be nearly 3 a.m. by now. That's when a loud noise rings out over the silence. A symphony of toppled trash cans reverberates through the air. It could just be some strays, but it's best to check in case it's not. Izuku makes his way toward the noise, hearing muffled voices as he gets closer, causing him to speed up. Drawing nearer, Izuku's gaze locks onto the source of the noise, seeing a tall lady looming over what looks like a young teenager. He jumps off the roof without hesitation, landing a short distance from the scene. What he fails to notice is that the lady seems to have a grotesque display of daggers growing from her hands. Assuming a fighting stance, Izuku locks eyes with the villain, her gaze now fixated on him. Well, hello there, little prey. What, are you playing hero? She says in a mocking tone before laughing harshly. Izuku shivers at the grating sound. She launches herself toward Izuku, not waiting for his response, her hand swiping viciously at his face. Izuku narrowly dodges the blow, only to be met with a fist to his stomach instead. A jolt of pain flows through him, and Izuku cries out. Oh, and here I thought I would have a worthy opponent for once. Instead, you're just another helpless wannabe. Another child lost in their delusions of heroism, pretending they can save people, she sighs. How pitiful. I am not. Just a wannabe hero. Izuku forces out through gritted teeth. I can save people. The woman just laughs, walking away as Izuku slides to the ground. As she disappears from sight, Izuku glances down at the blood gushing from his wounded stomach. Oh. She had daggers coming out of her hands. That explains it. Everything goes black. Izuku stares at the newly formed scar on his stomach, touching it tentatively. It didn't hurt. None of his scars from death ever hurt, though the burns on his shoulders would occasionally burn slightly, reminding him of their existence when his clothes would brush against them. Izuku sighs. He'll have to do better if he wants to be a hero, if he wants to save people. His head echoes with the haunting words of others. Take a swan dive off the roof. You can't be a hero. You won't be able to save anyone. Another child lost in their delusions of heroism, pretending they can save people. Izuku closes his eyes, desperately willing the thoughts away. They don't leave. The next week passes in a blur. Izuku immerses himself in his training, occasionally studying at the library as well. He runs into the kid with the lilac hair multiple times, though Izuku mainly tries to avoid him with his prying questions and lazy expressions. Eventually, the kid walks to where Izuku is and sits down. Not too close, but still in the vicinity. He doesn't speak, just reads. Izuku decides this is acceptable. Izuku also continues his nightly patrols, learning more and more as the days go on. He dies nearly every night. He gets shot again, stabbed a few times, and even poisoned. The most embarrassing incident was when Izuku tried to use one of the smoke bombs that he got from his first patrol. In a moment of desperation, he threw what he believed to be the smoke bomb into the street, hoping for a diversion, only to realize too late that the gadget he threw was actually a flashbang. It left him, the villain, and the victim all momentarily blinded, before the villain knocked him out with a swift kick to the head. That night was the first patrol where Izuku hadn't died, so despite the series of near-death encounters, he counted it as a success. Yet, as Izuku returns home at nearly 5 in the morning, he is exhausted. He sits on the floor of his room and slits his wrists, watching the blood seep into the cracks of the floorboards below him. I just need some sleep. Besides, this will heal me for tomorrow's patrol as well. The relief of death washes over him, the room beginning to swirl, before promptly going black. Izuku has begun to notice that the more he dies, the quicker he revives. The first time he bled out, it took nearly 9 hours for him to regain consciousness, but now it's closer to 8.5. Although it may seem like a small difference, it shows the potential that over time, his overall regeneration time can become way shorter. I guess I just have to die a lot more so that my quirk can get stronger? That sounds so morbid. As Izuku ponders the potential of his quirk, he's walking home after dying the previous night on patrol. He had found a villain that he was unable to catch on a previous patrol, and the fight was long and tiring, ending up with Izuku being stabbed in the side by her tail. Stabbings, gunshots, and various other painful wounds have become a grim routine for Izuku as he continues to patrol every night. He was growing accustomed to the pain, not letting it bother him much as he fights through the night and early morning. So when he was stabbed by the villain's tail, he refused to let it hinder his fighting. Eventually, he won the fight and had the lady arrested. Izuku had been able to get away before the police arrived, using his newly bought phone, an old, cheap flip phone, to call the police and leave an anonymous tip, but after getting a few blocks away, he was forced to stop. That night, Izuku found out the hard way that the villain's tail contained a lethal venom. Izuku ended up dying on a slanted rooftop, and at some point in the night, he slid from the roof and landed on the hard cement below. So it was fair to say that Izuku is not having a good day. Hunger gnaws at his stomach, his back aches from laying on the ground too long, and he has a monstrous headache, most likely from dehydration. As Izuku slowly and bitterly trudges home, he passes a park, seeing that it's once again decorated for some event. He sees the banner reading Heroes in the Park, and thinks back to what he witnessed a few weeks ago. It's much more empty this time though. Izuku's attention drifts downward, eyes fixating on the dried blood that soaked through his shirt the night before. He had been able to scrub off most of the blood from his hands at least, but they still looked faintly pink. There's nobody by the cats this time. It wouldn't hurt for me to just stop by real quick. After all, his day has been far from pleasant, and some fluffy kittens might be the much-needed antidote. Izuku hesitantly approaches the cat pen. Stepping inside the gate, he is instantly swarmed by 3 adorable kittens. Izuku settles himself on the plush grass, allowing the kittens to climb on him, their gentle purrs providing a sort of comfort for the lonely boy. Lost in the peaceful moment, time slips away from him. But Izuku's tranquility is interrupted by the sight of a tall man making his way toward him. As the man draws near, Izuku's memory jolts, recognizing him as the stranger who waved at him the last time he passed the park. The man looks very tall and lanky, with long blonde hair tied lightly in a loose ponytail and over his shoulder. His glasses and kind smile complete the stranger's friendly look. When he gets closer to Izuku, he gazes at the cats surrounding the younger boy. Nearly 5 more have joined him, jumping on his legs and shoulders. That fluffy black one is my favorite. We call her Shadow. The blonde attempts to initiate a conversation. Izuku briefly meets the man's gaze before lowering his head again, his expression guarded as he stares down at the kittens playing freely in his lap. I've noticed you passing by a few times, he tries again. Do you live around here? Izuku stares at him. What does this guy want from me? Yeah, something like that. The blonde smiles, seemingly unfazed by Izuku's vague answer. This cafe is offering free food and drinks for the event. Would you like some? His eyes flicker briefly to Izuku's blooded shirt before quickly meeting his eyes again, his smile unwavering. The offer throws Izuku off guard, but he quickly regains his neutral expression. I'm not hungry. That's a lie. Izuku hasn't eaten in nearly 2 days now. Right on cue, his stomach betrays him with a loud growl, causing the short-haired white kitten to jump off his lap. The man chuckles. It's all right, kiddo. You don't have to eat anything, but I'll bring you some just in case, the stranger declares, flashing a grin before turning and disappearing into the small cafe. Why is he acting so nice? I should probably leave. But despite that thought, Izuku stays. The cafe door swings open after a few minutes, the aroma of freshly cooked food filling the air as the man brings out a plate full of white rice, eggs, and an assortment of pastries. Alongside the meal, the kind man places a small bowl of miso soup and a glass of water. Bon appetit, he cheerfully exclaims. I wasn't sure what you'd like, so I brought a few options. Feel free to eat as little or as much as you want. Izuku can feel his mouth watering at the sight and scent of the freshly cooked meal. He hasn't had a warm plate of food in years. He quickly mumbles a thank you and eagerly begins to eat. It could be poisoned, but at this point, I don't even care. Izuku sighs as contentment washes over him while he eats. This tastes better than anything I've ever had before. The man sits silently nearby, observing the boy as he scarfs down his meal, not speaking until Izuku is nearly finished. Now, you don't have to answer, but I thought it couldn't hurt to ask, he hesitantly begins. Izuku eyes him suspiciously. Are you okay? Are you safe? I feel like every time I see you, you're covered in blood. Are you dash? Izuku abruptly stands, cutting the man off mid-sentence. Thanks for the meal. I'll be leaving now. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to overstep, the other says in a remorseful voice as Izuku begins to walk away. Just know that if you ever need anything or if you're hungry, you're always welcome here. Izuku doesn't acknowledge the kind words as he retreats from the strange man. Hisashi, with a tinge of sadness in his eyes, watches as the young boy walks away, his form gradually blending into the distance. Letting out a heavy sigh, he gathers the dishes left behind, his mind filled with thoughts of the green-haired boy. He has seen the kid pass by on numerous occasions, though he often looked extremely distant and covered in bloodstains. Hisashi couldn't describe how happy he is that he had been able to talk to the green bean this time, though he had hoped that the other would have been more open to accepting help. But he knows how it goes. He understands the amount of trauma the child must carry is heavier than most, this fact evident in his distrust toward Hisashi. Hisashi knows he shouldn't have asked about the bloodstains, even indirectly. Yet it only serves to further prove Hisashi's point. If he truly wants to aid this young listener, he's going to need to keep his distance and try not to pry. However, the interaction wasn't entirely pointless. Hisashi had managed to get some food into the green bean's stomach and was hopefully able to build even a small amount of trust. And he had also remembered to tell the kiddo that he could always find a warm meal here and anything else he needed. He knows the kid won't take him up on his offer. But Hisashi is still happy he tried. As a partial owner of the Cat Cafe and the driving force behind the Heroes in the Park organization, Hisashi hoped to support small businesses that created hero merchandise while also being able to provide food and water to anyone in need. Typically, the cafe's food is not free on the days that Heroes in the Park isn't in session, however Hisashi was never one to deny food to the hungry. So if he could only help one kid, even just by providing one meal for him, Hisashi was happy to be of service. Izuku is perched on the roof of a building, waiting to make sure the police arrive and the villain stays unconscious. Once he catches sight of the flashing lights in the distance, with one final glance at the knocked-out villain, he begins his exit. Izuku had been able to learn a bit more about the underground market, which contains an abundance of weapons and support gear that Izuku so desperately needs. But before he can make his way to it, he has to lose the eyes that have been locked on him for the past hour. He had first noticed he was being watched around midnight, and now it was just past 1. He had only run into 2 criminals in the past hour, so Izuku focused the majority of his time on trying to evade the watchful eyes, with not much luck. Izuku curses as they continue to follow him after he ducks into a random alley. How the F am I supposed to go to the market when this BSU won't let me out of their sight? Who even are they? It takes another hour before Izuku successfully is left without a set of eyes on his back. They left on their own accord, which left him a little wary. Once he's alone again, Izuku makes his way to the edge of the city where an abandoned building stands. As he enters through the back doors, he is immediately confronted by a tall, muscular bald man. What are you doing here? For a second, in the heat of the bouncer's glare, Izuku blanks. I'm Dash, he swallows dryly, trying to remember what the first criminal had told him. I'm embracing the moonlit night. The man gives him a scrutinizing look and Izuku tries to not shake under the intense eyes. Finally, the bouncer opens a door behind him, holding it open with a brief nod, allowing Izuku to enter the other side. The interior of the building is much more spacious than Izuku would have thought based on its exterior. The dimly lit space buzzes with noise and bustles with shady characters. Booths and stalls line the open area, showcasing a vast array of items. The site vaguely reminds Izuku of the old marketplace he used to visit with his mom, only much more illegal. Many people fill the space, most concealing their appearance with cloaks or masks and speaking in hushed tones. A large set of stairs line one side of the building, though there are no signs to indicate what lies above. Izuku stares wide-eyed into the busy space, overwhelmed by the variety of options and unsure of where to begin or how to proceed. He stays near the wall and tries to come up with a plan. As he contemplates his next move, a cloaked figure strides over to Izuku, causing him to take a cautious step back. You look lost, my friend. Might I assist you in some way? The voice is low and ominous, raising Izuku's guard even further. Izuku eyes the stranger warily. And what would I have to do in return? Ooh, a smart one, you are. The figure chuckles, the sound sending shivers down Izuku's spine. I just need a small payment, my friend. Cash will do nicely. I didn't bring much money. Then how about I just take half of what you do have? Sound like a deal? He extends his hand and after a brief moment, Izuku reaches out to shake it. Deal. After shaking hands with the cloaked stranger, Izuku's tour begins. Welcome to the underground market of Musutafu. I will be your guide tonight. The figure flashes a toothy, unsettling smile. You can call me Jiran. It is your first time here, yes? Izuku nods, and as the man continues talking, Izuku has the feeling he isn't in the most legal types of businesses. The market has a total of 5 floors, each offering a unique selection of goods. The first contains gadgets and support items, while the second level consists of both legal and illegal weapons. Moving up, there's a floor dedicated to rare and forbidden books, and another for illicit substances. The last floor is known as Floor 0, and Jiran reveals a hidden staircase on the opposite side of the building. As the pair descend, Izuku notices the lowest floor contains a large fighting ring in the center of the space. Elevated platforms surround the ring for spectators to watch and cheer during the battles. Where the top floors were filled by quiet murmurs and shuffling feet, the noise on Floor 0 is deafening, filled with enthusiastic cheers and screams as the fights unfold. Jiran points to a wall across from the stairs. You can place wagers and bet on the winners over there. And if you ever want to fight, go to the other side of that counter and give your name. It's a great way to make extra cash. Returning upstairs, Izuku agrees to give the doctor half his cash. Seeing as Izuku only has about 15,000 yen on him, he considers it a pretty decent deal. Before he parts ways with the cloaked man, Izuku has a question for him. Mr. Jiran Dash. Just Jiran, the man corrects. Right, Jiran. How has this place not been found out by heroes or the public yet? It's so large yet I've never heard of it until now. Jiran laughs. We have Bubbles to thank for that. Bubbles? Bubbles. Our dear bouncer whom you may have met earlier. He has a powerful quirk that grants him the ability to open doors leading to any desired destination, making him the sole gateway into this extraordinary market. Of course this place is protected by quirks. After a bit more explaining, the two split ways. Izuku heads toward the booths on the first floor, scanning over the many gadgets on display until he spots a familiar-looking item. How much for the flashbangs and smoke pellets? Izuku questions. The merchant smiles. For a set of 10, it'll be 6,000 yen. Izuku's eyes widen in shock. Of course it would be expensive. It's a effing underground market. I'll take a pack of flashbangs then. He liked using these in fights, as long as he remembered to close his eyes in time to avoid being affected by the blast. They have proven very useful at temporarily stunning or distracting his opponents. As Izuku pockets the gadgets, he looks down at the meager 1,500 yen remaining in his possession with a sigh. Walking along the wall, he passes the hidden door to floor 0 and pauses. It's a great way to make extra cash. After debating for a moment longer, Izuku decides it can't do him any harm to try. Little did he know just how very wrong he was. It takes about 30 minutes for Izuku to sign up to fight. They assessed his size and weight and set him in the ring quickly after. Apparently, there is a constant shortage of late-night fighters, and the audience mainly consists of drunk people eager to waste their money. In the ring, Izuku sizes up the man standing opposite him. He's taller than Izuku, but at this point, who isn't? He appears fairly strong as well and holds a disturbingly large smile plastered on his face as he stares down the shorter boy. A voice resounds through the ring. And now, the fight you've all been waiting for. The Joker versus the unnamed fighter. Cheers erupt from the stands, begging for violence. Izuku has no time to regret his decisions as the Joker charges at him, swinging his fists. The next few minutes are a blur of panic and evasion as Izuku desperately avoids the Joker's attacks. The crowd begins to grow restless, waiting for the action to begin. As the Joker watches him, waiting, Izuku takes a deep breath. It's just like fighting a villain. Treat it the same way. You're safe. Breathe. The attacks continue for several more minutes, but this time, Izuku throws some punches and kicks of his own. While many miss, a few connect. The two fighters break apart, both catching their breath and lock eyes. Quickly, Izuku dashes forward, throwing a left jab before dropping low to the ground. The Joker dodges the jab but fails to notice Izuku, knocking his feet out from under him. With a curse, he crashes to the ground. Izuku swiftly straddles the taller man, placing his knees on the other's arms and pressing his forearm against the Joker's neck. After a minute of enduring painful scratches and futile attempts to dislodge the smaller boy, the Joker falls unconscious. The crowd erupts into cheers, and before he knows it, Izuku finds himself with nearly 150,000 yen in his pockets. Sitting alone in his home, Izuku laughs to himself. Who would have thought that one could make so much money from fighting? And who could have guessed that a 150,000 yen goes such a long way in an underground market? With his money, Izuku purchased a set of dark kunai throwing knives and an extendable staff, both of which the teen has never used before, but he is willing to learn. Although he only managed to acquire a small amount of the non-lethal gadgets he'd gotten so used to, the kind merchant who sold them explained that she, along with many other people at the market, accept blood as a form of payment. Most likely for people with blood-related quirks, he reasoned. She told him to bring any blood he collected next time in exchange for some more supplies. So during the day, Izuku practices throwing the knives with precision and swinging his staff with force. But once the sun sets, that's when the real fun begins. Izuku smiles down at his outfit, satisfied with how it turned out. He wears a sleek, hooded vest with an attached mask, able to be zipped up and cover half his face while the black, flexible material allows him to disguise his voice. The back of the vest contains a set of pockets which Izuku stores the medical supplies he bought. With this vest, both his hair and face are concealed, and his voice muffled. His pants are slightly baggy, made of material designed for stealth and mobility. They have pockets on the sides where extra money and medical supplies are hidden. Due to the long, jagged scars on each of his forearms, Izuku purchased arm guards that connect to fingerless gloves and extend to just below his elbows. The leathery material protects his arms while still allowing movement, the gloves adding extra hand protection and improved grip, along with added tactile sensitivity. Izuku also acquired a cross-waist utility belt that holds his knives on one side and a small bag on the other. Inside the bag he hides various, easily attainable gadgets. Lastly, Izuku glances down at his shoes. He bought big, steel-toed boots, made to be lightweight for stealth and designed to enhance his jumping and running speed while still allowing him to be light on his feet. With his new gear, Izuku's fun can begin. Or so he thought. Instead, he is once again plagued by the uncomfortable feeling of being watched. He sighs to himself. Of course I can't just test out my gear by myself. No, I have to try out my new stuff while some creep watches me. Because the universe hates me. Jumping from rooftop to rooftop. Izuku takes advantage of his new shoes, as they make the movement effortless. He quickly drops into an alley, pulling out his phone as he zigzags between buildings in an attempt to lose the prying eyes, even if only for a second. And it works. On top of a building not too far away, Izuku spots a tall figure dressed in black, crouching down as his eyes slowly search the surrounding area. Gotcha, a-hole. Izuku snaps a few pictures of the person, then runs off again. Along his route, Izuku encounters a few criminals, quickly stopping them before continuing to hide from his pursuer. Thanks to the new shoes and flexible clothing, Izuku is way faster than he used to be, just barely outpacing the creeper watching him. Which means that he can lose the eyes and go home without further concerns. Izuku smiled at this thought. But as he previously stated, the universe hates him. Izuku stumbles upon another villain and internally groans. Two men surround a smaller girl, likely around the age of 10, who is trembling and crying. Why is someone so young out so late? Izuku can't quite hear their conversation, but it appears dangerous. Moving stealthily, Izuku drops behind the two men, his dark clothing blending with the shadows. With a swift swing of his staff, he connects it with the first man's side, resulting in a crunch that sounds an awful lot like broken ribs. Izuku winces. He usually tries to not injure the criminals too much, but I guess it can't be helped. While the first man collapses to the ground, wailing in pain, the second fumbles for his gun. Izuku sees the movement and pushes the end of the staff toward the man's chest, throwing him off balance. The gun goes flying, and a shot rings out. The girl behind him screams in pain, but before Izuku can react, the second man is already back on his feet, running toward where the gun landed. The first man begins to try and sit up, but with a swift axe kick to his head, the criminal drops back to the ground with a thud. Determined to prevent the other criminal from reaching the weapon, Izuku, who is still too far away to use his staff, grabs a throwing knife from its holder at his side. He takes a moment to aim, then throws it. The man stops in his tracks as the knife pierces through the palm of his hand, his knees hitting the ground hard. He yells in surprise and pain, cradling his wounded hand. Izuku jumps over the fallen body of the first man and rushes toward the second, who is still on his knees. He swiftly pushes him face down on the ground, ties his hands together, then does the same to the first man. Once they are both secured, Izuku begins to call the police, only to be interrupted by movement behind him. He looks over, hand instinctively reaching for a knife, but relaxes when he realizes it's only the young girl from before. The kid stares up at him, tears glistening in her eyes. Her hand clutches her opposite shoulder and blood seeps through her fingers. Oh shit, the gun. How could I forget that? Izuku squats down to be at eye level with the crying child, and asks genteelly if he can have a look. After a few minutes of assuring her that he won't hurt her, she removes her hand. There is a shallow gash on her upper arm, the wound dripping with blood. Thank God it only grazed her, that makes this so much easier. With a glance behind him to make sure the villains are still secured, Izuku grabs some medical supplies from his pant pockets. He gives the girl a reassuring smile. I have to stop the bleeding, but this will make it better, I promise. She whimpers in fear. How about you tell me about yourself? What's your name? As the girl talks in a wavering voice, Izuku begins his work. He gently pours clean water over the grazed area, causing her to gasp in pain. I have to disinfect the wound. I'm sorry, this might sting, but try and keep talking, okay? She nods, her face filled with pain. Izuku's heart aches for her. As she continues to speak, Izuku continues his work, offering encouraging words as he goes. After applying a gauze pad and tightly applying a bandage around the wound, he smiles at her. You were so brave. It's all better now, he says, starting to stand up. But before he can fully rise, the girl launches herself at him, wrapping her arms tightly around Izuku's waist in a grateful hug. Thank you for saving me, she whispers, and Izuku nearly tears up. Of course, he responds softly. He quickly calls the police, providing them with the location and informing them that a young girl has been injured as well. Then, Izuku waits with the girl until he can hear the police sirens approaching. And with a final hug, he makes his leave. Of course, having stayed in one place for nearly half an hour, the eyes had quickly found him once more. Izuku sensed their presence after the first man fell. So he spends the rest of the night running, trying to avoid getting caught. After running for nearly an hour, Izuku's stamina has begun to run out. I can't go home, what if that creep follows me there? Then he could find out my real identity. And so Izuku continues to run and hide, long into the night. And although he had slowed down enormously as the night wore on, the figure never seemed to get any closer nor further away. When the eyes finally disappear, it's nearly 5 a.m. Izuku's legs and lungs are crying in pain as he trudges home. Once he arrives, he realizes something. I didn't die tonight. Or even really get injured. That's a good thing, right? It's definitely a good thing. But I should probably start collecting blood like that merchant mentioned. That way, when I return, I can get more supplies. There's many more things I still need. Izuku picks up his knife from the belt that had been thrown to the floor as he continues to make excuses in his mind. Besides, I should get multiple pieces of clothing so that when one ultimately tears or gets stained, I still have a few spares. He places the blade against his wrist, dragging it along the already prominent scar that sits there. I should try and get some of those forbidden books I heard about too. Maybe I could learn some secret information about fighting. He does the same to his other arm. Those have got to cost a fortune. It's best to start saving up now, in case I need them later. Izuku watches as the blood runs down his arm, seeping into the already blood-stained cracks of his floorboards. It's not like this will become a habit anyways, it's just a way to get some rest while also getting money and supplies. He closes his eyes. What's so wrong with that? As Izuku feels the delicate threads of life slipping away, intertwining with his blood as they seep through the cracks of existence, a small smile graces his face. His vision goes white and he surrenders to the kind embrace of death. Izuku awakens to a cascade of sunlight flooding his room. He attempts to stand up but instantly collapses back to the floor, his head spinning and vision blurred. Oh, I forgot to eat again. His gaze falls upon a can of beans that sits across the room, but the thought of their cold, slimy texture makes his stomach churn. I need to eat something, though. The training plan won't work if I'm starving myself. I need proper nutrition to gain muscle. Izuku sighs. The worst part of living on the streets is that you no longer get warm meals, he mutters bitterly. Memories of his mother's home-cooked dishes flood his mind. Although he hasn't tasted those since he was around the age of after Hisoshi left them, his mom stopped bothering to cook for Izuku, instead opting to simply ignore his existence. Still, the scraps of food he occasionally received from her would sometimes be on the warmer side, which is far more preferable than eating cold beans for 5 days in a row. Suddenly, Izuku remembers the man at the park. His eyes widen. Blondie! If the event's there today, he'll probably give me food, right? And though Izuku doesn't like to trust strangers or to get his hopes up, the prospect of a home-cooked meal makes his mouth water, clouding his reasonable thinking skills. So upon reaching the park, Izuku curses himself for coming in the first place. I shouldn't rely on Blondie for food, I barely know him. What if he's not even here today? Izuku turns to leave, frustrated with himself for making it all the way there, when he hears a voice call out. Hey kiddo! He stops, turning around to spot the tall man walking towards him. A wave of uncertainty washes over him. Oh shit, should I run? His gaze darts around wildly before he catches himself. Wait. I literally came here to see Blondie, why would I run? Izuku looks at the ground, embarrassed by his thoughts as the man approaches him. You came. Are you here for some food, little listener? The small boy gazes up at the man silently, before nodding. Before long, Izuku finds himself seated in a booth with Blondie, snarfing down his hot meal. He doesn't care that it's burning his tongue or that he probably looks like a savage beast with the way he's eating. The only thing that matters right now is that the food in front of him is warm and not a can of beans. Once again, Blondie silently watches Izuku as he eats. When he finishes the food, Izuku gulps down the cup of water, placing it back on the table with a thud. A few awkward seconds pass between the two before Izuku speaks. Thanks for the food, Blondie. Blondie's green eyes blink in surprise, he begins to laugh. At first, Izuku is confused. Is he laughing at me? Maybe he poisoned the food and was waiting for me to notice. He doesn't seem like a bad guy, but maybe he's just a good actor. I didn't poison your food, listener. The man smiles softly and Izuku realizes he had spoken aloud. I just didn't realize you had a nickname for me already. Oh. Sorry. It's all right, no harm done. But my name is actually Hisashi Yamada. You can call me either, I don't mind. He offers a kind smile, and in Izuku's mind, the pieces fall into place. Oh my god, you're present MIC? Izuku jumps from his seat, gaping at the blonde hero. What? How did you know that? My name isn't even public-present MIC stammers, taken aback, as Izuku continues to gape. Well, it's kind of obvious when you think about it. All the pieces fit together. Even without knowing your name, it's very clear that you're present MIC. Your hair is the first giveaway. You have the same distinctively long blonde hair as present MIC. Even if yours is down, it's still a dead giveaway. Then there's your face. You have the same glasses and little mustache thing as MIC, not to mention the same expressive eyes and unusually loud voice. Present MIC has always been one of my favorite heroes, so of course I know your name. I've spent hours watching interviews and behind-the-scenes footage for every hero I can. No matter how underground they are, which might I add, you definitely are not, there's always a way to find out their real name, always some tidbit of information or footage just waiting for someone to pick up the pieces and connect the dots. I've always wanted to meet Present MIC. I have so many questions about your quirk. Izuku beams with pride as he rants, but upon seeing the shocked expression on Present MIC's face, he promptly shuts up, slapping a hand over his mouth. Sorry. After regaining his composure, MIC responds softly. There's no reason to apologize, listener. I just didn't expect anyone to recognize me. But I'm not upset, don't worry. Izuku watches the hero, and once he recognizes the sincerity, he hesitantly asks, could I ask you a few questions? Of course. MIC would soon come to regret that decision. After a grueling session of questions, some of which Hisashi himself didn't know how to answer, the kid decides it's time to leave. Hey kiddo, before you go, I didn't catch your name. The kid stares at him, searching his face with his green eyes. Renji Kobayashi. Should I call you Kobayashi, then? The kid shrugs nonchalantly, then walks out of the cafe. Hisashi isn't entirely convinced that it's the kid's real name, but at least he has something to call the green bean. He had been relieved to see that Kobayashi wasn't covered in blood this time, although he noticed a faint blood stain on the sleeve of his sweater. Hisashi decided it was best not to mention it. Sighing, the blonde heads back outside to check on the kittens. I sure hope he comes back soon. And safe. Izuku is unwilling to return home with the eyes following him, so instead, he heads to the underground market. After exchanging greetings with the bouncer, he smiles at Izuku, his face surprisingly kind for someone so tough-looking, and glancing at the new items at the market, Izuku decides to sign up to fight. He had purchased some new clothes with the extra cash and blood, but he spotted a particularly nice support item that costs more than he can afford. And so, he must fight. Although, if he's being honest with himself, Izuku really doesn't mind the fighting. And so the match commences. He signed up for 3 rounds, each with a different opponent, all fighting without the aid of quirks or support items. Izuku is already familiar with this style of combat, giving him an advantage. The first 2 rounds pass quickly, with Izuku barely getting hurt and taking down his opponents within minutes. Then the 3rd round begins. Izuku looks up at the challenger. The man stands nearly 7 feet tall, with muscles the size of Izuku's head. He gulps. How the F am I supposed to beat that? The bell rings and the fight begins. Izuku launches himself at the other, throwing punches and kicks as best he can. They have some effect, throwing the man a bit off balance, but it's clearly not enough. Izuku curses inwardly. I'm gonna have to practice more powerful attacks. Suddenly, Izuku is thrown back with tremendous force. With a single punch, he can feel his ribs cracking. He crashes against the edge of the ring and groans in pain. This motherfucker definitely has a strength-enhancing quirk, the cheating BSTD. The fight continues. Izuku has observed that over time, after dying and reviving multiple times, his pain tolerance has become remarkably high. though he remains unsure whether this is due to him constantly dealing with pain, causing him to become accustomed to it, or if it's a part of his quirk. As the fight reaches nearly 20 minutes, Izuku pushes himself back up from where he was thrown down. By now, at least 2 of his ribs are undoubtedly broken, if not more. His knuckles are bloody and raw, and he's favoring his left leg more than his right. The ground beneath him is splattered with his own blood, yet he barely feels the pain, his intense gaze fixed on his opponent. The other guy doesn't appear to be faring much better, although anyone would easily say he's doing better than Izuku. While his broken nose is gushing blood, he clutches his side, moving around with a limp, eyes still on Izuku. Well, only one eye. To be precise. The other is swollen shut. Izuku bares his teeth and lunges at the larger man, ignoring the searing pain that courses through his body. The force of his attack causes the opponent to stumble backward, tripping over his own feet and landing on his back. Izuku swiftly straddles the fallen man. He lifts his fist, a feral smile on his face as he repeatedly brings it down, bashing the man's head. The other attempts to shield his face with his arms, but Izuku persists with his blows. At one point, he thinks he can hear a sickening crack emanating from his hand, but he ignores it. Finally, the man beneath him stops struggling, and Izuku pauses, his breathing heavy. Is it done? Did I win? But that brief hesitation is all the opening the other needs. In an instant, Izuku is hurled off him, his head smacking into the ground with a sickening thud. Izuku's vision starts to blur. The towering opponent, now on top of Izuku, rains down punches the way Izuku previously had done. But this man, this 7-foot-tall, 250-pound man, who most likely has a strength-enhancing quirk, throws much more powerful punches than Izuku. The world goes black. Upon opening his eyes, the darkness doesn't leave Izuku. Neither does the rancid stench that surround him. He attempts to sit up, but feels something pressing down on him. It's not heavy, but it's wide enough to make it difficult for him to escape. After what feels like an eternity of struggling to remove the items on top of his body, Izuku spots a crack of light above him. Reaching up, his fingers come into contact with what feels like plastic? He pushes against it, the plastic moving easily. And there he sits. The fearsome vigilante and underground fighting champion, Izuku Midoriya. In a effing trash can. What? The F dash. With little effort, he frees himself from the garbage and lands onto the hard cement of the back alley. Did I die? And they shoved me in a garbage can out back? What the F dash? Izuku looks down at his attire, finding it covered in a horrendous smell and bits of trash. He feels around his pockets. Empty. And they took my effing money? Izuku yells in frustration. Fuming, he storms back home, where he changes out of his filthy clothes and into fresh ones. He grabs his bag but pauses before making it out of the door. Have I always had scars on my knuckles? Seated in the library, Izuku delves deeper into studying fighting techniques. At the market, he had come across numerous intriguing books on fighting and underground heroes, though he had been unable to keep them. Nevertheless, he diligently wrote down everything he could remember, filling multiple pages. After a while, the purple-haired kid comes over, taking a seat nearby. Did I ever get his name? Silence lingers between the two before the kid breaks it. You know, there are public showers at the place down the road. Izuku squints in confusion, but after actually using his brain, for once, he realizes, oh shit, do I smell like trash? The purple guy laughs. Not my fault I woke up in a garbage can, Izuku mumbles defensively. What was your name again? The kid stares at him, concern and shock filling his expression. You what? Your name? Shinsu. You woke up in a garbage can? Izuku just blinks at the boy Shinsu. Cool, I'll be sure to check out those showers soon. Izuku starts to pack up his things. W8, where are you going? Are you okay? Once again, Izuku ignores the questions, flashing Shinsu a smile. It was nice meeting you. I'm gonna go shower now. Okay, fine. Can you at least tell me your name? He seems to be growing irritated. Izuku stares for a second. Soto Tanaka, he replies before turning and walking away. Behind him, Shinsu is left bewildered. What the hell? That's the fakest name I've ever heard. Probably because I just said the first thing that came to mind. I literally just put two last names together. Despite the obvious lie, Izuku snickers to himself at how confused the other boy is. I could totally use a hot shower right now. Izuku feels weight of someone's gaze on his back as soon as he climbs onto the roof. Over the past week, Izuku had managed to capture multiple pictures of the figure following him, but he still hasn't been able to identify who it is yet. Usually, the figure merely observes Izuku from a distance, never interfering with his vigilantism. Tonight, however, seemed to be different. After an hour of patrolling, Izuku senses the presence of the eyes drawing nearer, growing closer. Izuku has two theories as to who could be following him. Based on the pictures and his own observations, it's highly possible that this figure is either a villain or a hero. Both hypotheses have a common foundation but very different endings. If the individual tailing Izuku is a villain, they most likely are seeking to recruit him or trying to eliminate him. Izuku wasn't sure which scenario was better. On the other hand, if the person happens to be a hero, it also doesn't have the best outcome for this young vigilante. For the person to be a hero, they would have to be an underground one, and considering their appearance and speed, the only hero that Izuku can think of who patrolled in a nearby area is Eraserhead. Eraserhead is Izuku's favorite hero, especially after the All Might incident, where he moved from second place to first. Despite his efforts, Izuku couldn't bring himself to hate all heroes. Especially not Eraserhead, who fought quirkless most of the time. But vigilantism is illegal. And even though he isn't using a quirk to fight or killing criminals, he doubts that anyone would care. So Izuku continues to run. After 30 minutes of running and jumping and hiding as the figure slowly gets closer, the pursuer speaks. You can't run forever. If you turn yourself in now, you'll be in less trouble. Sheet. A hero. Izuku runs on. 30 more minutes pass and Izuku is doing fine, as he maintains a safe distance from the hero while not overexerting himself. Well, he was doing fine. Until he lands awkwardly on a roof, resulting in pain and a loss of balance. Izuku curses under his breath as he stumbles forward. You'll only get hurt. Stop running away. Izuku continues to run. But his luck must be running out. Once he reaches the edge of the roof and attempts to leap, a jolt of pain shoots up his leg from his earlier improper landing. He pushes through the pain, determined to complete his jump. However, due to the poor start and loss of concentration, Izuku falls short and doesn't make it onto the next roof. No, instead, he crashes painfully into the ledge, the edge digging into his stomach. He starts to slip, desperately clawing at the seamless surface in a poor attempt to gain a grip. Just as he teeters on the brink of completely slipping off the roof, sturdy hands grab hold of his flailing ones. Shouter had been observing this vigilante, whom the people had dubbed Nightfall, for a few weeks now. Unfortunately for him, this vigilante seemed to be constantly on high alert, instantly noticing the hero's presence. Stealth had clearly failed him. Detective Tsukochi had informed Eraserhead that this man was a highly trained individual and had been anonymously calling in criminals for months now. Despite questioning many of the victims, all of them refused to provide any information about Nightfall, only stating that he had saved them. Some even called him a hero. So Shouter decided that tonight is the night he will finally make his move and apprehend the vigilante that had been freely roaming these streets for far too long. Shouter had anticipated that Nightfall would realize he was being watched, but he hadn't expected the vigilante to notice him creeping closer. In a flash, Nightfall is gone. The hero sighs. And here I had hoped tonight's patrol would be easy. After nearly an hour of chasing, Shouter was getting tired. The gap between him and Nightfall had grown wider, and the other man continued to evade him even after Shouter had revealed himself as a hero. Up ahead, Nightfall stumbles, catching Shouter's attention. This might be his only opportunity to capture the vigilante. You'll only get hurt. Stop running away. He calls out, hoping the other will use reason and stop running from him. He doesn't. Instead, he immediately attempts to jump to the next roof, but he falls short, landing painfully against the side. Shouter hurries over to the other roof, grabbing the rapidly slipping hands of the vigilante, trying to make sure that he doesn't drop. The masked face looks surprised by his sudden appearance, his green eyes widening as Shouter pulls him safely onto the roof. It was an effortless task, given how small Nightfall was. Why is he so light? He looks much smaller up close. Could it be a part of his quirk? As soon as the smaller man begins to make a move as if about to run, Shouter swiftly grabs him and pushes him to the ground. Nightfall, you are under arrest for illegal vigilantism. I will be taking you to the police department, so please refrain from dash. Erase ahead. The hero is cut off as Nightfall's voice rings out, causing numerous thoughts to race through Shouter's mind. Did he even hear anything I just said? It looks like there are stars in his eyes. Why does he sound so young? How the hell does he know who I am? Shouter stares at Nightfall for a moment more before reaching out to unzip the vigilante's mask. Despite Nightfall's protests, Shouter needs to get a good look at who he had been trailing the past weeks. His breath catches in his throat. A child? Distracted by this revelation, the kid beneath him begins flailing around viciously. A kick connects with Shouter's side, causing him to wince in pain. What are those, steel-toed boots? Where the hell did this kid get that stuff? Another kick swings his way and Shouter jumps back to avoid it. In an instant, Nightfall disappears. Shouter doesn't bother to chase after him. As soon as Shouter gets home, he sheds his hero costume and slips into more comfortable clothing. Crawling into bed quietly beside his husband, Shouter tries not to wake him. He wakes up nonetheless. Hey Sho, you're home late tonight. You alright? Hisashi looks up at him with sleepy eyes. However, despite the blonde's tired state, he immediately notices something is off. Sitting up, he grabs Shouter's hands. What happened? What's wrong? I'm alright, Hisashi. I caught that vigilante I've been telling you about though, Shouter sighs. It didn't turn out the way I had expected. Hisashi watches the tired man, waiting for him to continue. He was a kid, Zashi. A child. At this, Shouter's voice breaks. What do you mean, Sho? Worry floods the blonde's face as he watches his husband struggle to speak. He got hurt, so I went to help him, and when I took off his mask, he looked like he was Shouter takes a deep breath. He was covered in scars, Zashi. He had these burn marks on his shoulders and multiple other large scars on his upper arms. And his face, he had this huge one on his face as well. And I couldn't help but think about Oboro. I need to help him. Hisashi wraps his arms around Shouter, holding him in a tight embrace. If anyone can help him, it's you. It's going to be okay. He continues to whisper encouraging words to the tired man, holding him in his arms. After a few moments, Shouter speaks up. He also somehow recognized me. He knew who I was, by name. It was so strange. Hisashi chuckles. Wait till I tell you about the green bean from the cat cafe. He came back today. Shouter sits perched on a roof, waiting for Nightfall to appear. He doesn't have to wait long. And it doesn't take long for the kid to realize he's being watched. Shouter tries to keep his distance, especially when Nightfall gets into fights, and somehow he holds himself back, waiting patiently until the kid stops running for even a moment. And though it takes long, eventually, the vigilante is sitting alone on the edge of a roof, staring up at the dark sky. Shouter hesitantly moves towards him, trying to be as silent as possible. Unfortunately for him, this kid seems to have insanely good senses, as he jolts when the underground hero approaches too closely. Before the boy can fully jump to his feet, Shouter calls out to him. Wait, kid. Nightfall. I'm not here to arrest you, I just want to talk. Nightfall hesitates, then sits back down. He turns his body slightly towards the older man to show his listening. With a sigh of relief, Shouter positions himself at a short distance away from the vigilante. What do you want? His voice is blunt, emotionless. Shouter wonders what someone so young must have gone through to get a voice like that. I just want to ask you some questions. You don't have to answer them if you don't want to. The kid scoffs, continuing to look up at the bright stars above. Shouter takes this as a sign to continue. What's your name? The response comes instantly. Ichiro Suzuki. This time, It's the hero's turn to scoff. Kid, that's obviously not your name. You never said I had to be honest. In fact, you said I didn't have to answer at all. Shouter tries to hold back a sigh with little success. This problem child is going to be the end of me. How old are you? 52. Shouter practically growls as he can hear the amusement in Nightfall's voice. Or maybe I should call him Suzuki. Okay, look, I'm not going to press, but I do have to ask you one more thing. Are you safe? Do you have a safe place to stay after you go out all night? The kid continues to stare up at the sky, not saying anything. Unease begins to grow in Shouter's stomach as the silence stretches on. Yeah, his gaze doesn't leave the darkened sky. Don't worry, I'm not gonna die anytime soon or anything like that. The way he says this doesn't bring any comfort to the tired hero. The last part is said with a soft, painful chuckle, as if it was some inside joke he shared with the moon and stars. But are you safe? I thought you weren't gonna press Eraserhead. At the use of his name, the man pauses. How did you know who I was? Nightfall simply shrugs, rising to his feet and finally pulling his eyes away from the sky. Wait, before you go, Shouter saw the way the boy gazed at the stars. He stared at them in envy, as if he wished to join them, watching them with a pleading look in his eye, as if begging the universe to let him. And although he didn't understand, Shouter was determined to help. Take my phone number, kid. Contact me if you need help. If you get into a dangerous situation or even just need a place to crash, I'll answer. Nightfall pauses, staring at the man's outstretched hand. Shouter had written his number on a scrap of paper earlier that night, hoping he would have this interaction. The boy takes it. Then, before any words of protest could escape the hero's mouth, he disappears into the space between this roof and the next, leaving Shouter alone on the rooftop. Izuku lies in his bed, staring at his phone. Internally, he's overwhelmed with excitement. I can't believe I have Eraserhead's phone number saved in my phone right now. Eraserhead? I'm not dreaming, am I? After the awkward interaction on the roof earlier that night, Izuku doesn't know how to react. Eraserhead fights quirkless, so he has always admired the hero. Meeting him in person didn't change that. If anything, it just made green-haired boy admire him more. Izuku debates texting him, unsure of what he would even say. Then, a terrible, amazing idea comes into his mind and he begins to cackle. Shouter is sitting in bed next to Hisashi when he receives the text. Unknown number, image.jpg. 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 Confused, he opens the messages, only to come face to face with images of himself? Shouter squints at the screen. It's unmistakably him in these pictures, although blurry and occasionally taken from a distance, it's definitely him. Unknown number. I thought underground heroes were supposed to be stealthy LO. Shouter sighs and saves the number to his contacts, not sure how to respond. Problem child. This is Suzuki, by the way. That's not the same name you told me before. You're not even trying to hide it at this point. The three dots appear, then disappear, and after a moment, appear again. Problem child. It is what it is. Shouter sighs again in an attempt to hide the small smile that pulls at his lips. He puts his phone away and lays down next to his sleeping husband. I'll deal with this kid tomorrow. Izuku smiles down at his phone, before checking the time. 5:38 a.m. Oh shit, it's getting late. I need to go to bed soon or else I won't be awake enough to go to the library tomorrow. Izuku throws his phone onto his mattress and crosses his room in a few quick strides. He stops before reaching his crumbled clothing, searching through the pile on the floor. Found you. He pulls out his utility belt and settles down on the floor next to the bundle of clothing and vigilante gear. Izuku hums quietly to himself as he removes one of the knives from the belt. Good night, universe. Thank you for letting me meet Eraserhead again today. He pushes the knife into the already scarred skin of his inner arms. Maybe tonight you'll let me join you. Izuku laughs bitterly, knowing that won't happen. He closes his eyes, letting the darkness overtake him. Hitoshi is going to be late. He dashes out of the house, throwing a quick goodbye at his dad's before rushing toward the library. If we never set an official time, can I really be considered late? Knowing him, probably. Hitoshi has been sitting with the green-haired boy nearly every Wednesday and Friday for the past few weeks, and although they never established a fixed time, the other boy had always been there at 3 p.m. when Hitoshi arrived. So he dashes to the library, finally arriving, late and out of breath. As he quietly walks through the library, searching for the familiar green curls, he finds Tanaka. Near the back. His reading on the floor, engrossed in his book and oblivious to his surroundings. It feels wrong to call him Tanaka when that's so obviously not his name, but I don't know what else to call him. Hitoshi approaches the boy, and glances at the notebook left open on the floor. Squinting, he tries to decipher the large letters scribbled on the open page. You know about Eraserhead? The boy's scarred face jacks up in surprise. How did you dash? Notebook. Hitoshi nods toward the open pages and Tanaka hastily slams it closed, glaring up at the purple-haired boy. Hitoshi offers him a lazy smirk. If you don't want people to know what you're writing about, Freckles, I suggest you don't leave your notes where anyone can see. Tanaka responds with a roll of his eyes. Hitoshi can't help but notice the collection of books surrounding the other boy, the reoccurring theme piquing his interest. That's a lot of fighting and weapons books. Why would he need those? A thought crosses his mind and he debates whether he should continue bothering the other boy. Could you teach me some fighting techniques? No, the answer comes immediately, leaving no room for negotiation. But dash. Get your own books or go on the internet or something, Tanaka interrupted, shutting down the other's request once more. Hitoshi grumbles to himself as silence falls between the two of them once again. Are you trying to get into UA? With these words, Tanaka stiffens before leveling a glare at Hitoshi. No, why would you say that? After a brief hesitation, he continues. I'm actually quirkless, so I couldn't get into UA even if I wanted to. Green eyes stare intently into Hitoshi's tired ones, as if waiting for a reaction. Hitoshi doesn't give him one. Instead, he continues his look into the fierce eyes, tilting his head slightly and maintaining a lazy stare. How does that affect anything? The quirkless boy seems taken aback. He opens his mouth to speak, but Hitoshi continues before he can get a word out. You could still join the support course or general education classes. I don't want to be in those courses. I want to join the hero course, Tanaka replies, the frustration obvious in his voice. Hitoshi counts this tidbit of information as a win. And you still can. Why not? If you can pass the exams and show that you fight well, I don't see why you wouldn't be able to join the course. Silence. Hitoshi continues speaking, disliking the uncomfortable quiet. I want to get into UA too, the hero course. I just need to learn to fight. I have a villainous quirk though, so I don't know if dash. There's no such thing as a villainous quirk. Tanaka's voice is firm and carries a tinge of anger, catching Hitoshi off guard. He jars his head up and stares at the green-haired boy. What did you say? I'll spar with you. Hitoshi gapes as Tanaka rises and begins to gather his belongings. As the green-haired boy starts walking away, Hitoshi can only watch. He turns around, raising an eyebrow, and glances at the confused boy on the ground. You coming or not? Right now? Hitoshi fumbles, dropping his books in his haste to stand up. As he gathers his things, Hitoshi doesn't notice how the other watches him with a small smile and a glimmer of hope. Hitoshi has made a grave mistake. As he lies on the ground, breathing heavily, he glares up at the blaring sun. Are you sure you're quirkless? After finding himself on the sandy ground for the 5th time in nearly 30 minutes, Hitoshi is certain that Tanaka possesses some type of fighting quirk, perhaps agility or strength. Instead of being offended, the scarred boy begins to laugh. Shinsu, at this point I think anyone could beat you in a fight, quirkless or not. Hitoshi props himself up on his elbow, glaring at the green-haired boy. Okay, Mr. Effing Ninja. How the hell did you learn all this shit? You took me out in like 5 seconds. The boy just laughs harder, clutching his stomach. I read about it all in the library. You just SCK. That's when it hits Hitoshi. He's laughing. I haven't even seen him smile before. He stares at the boy, carrying a small smile of his own. Noticing the other's gaze, Tanaka shoots him a questioning look. What? Nothing. That's just the first time I've seen you laugh, Freckles. Really? And my name's not Freckles. What is your name then? Izu dash he slaps a hand over his mouth, eyes blown wide. Tanaka. My name is Tanaka. This time, it's Hitoshi's turn to laugh. Still on the ground, he cackles loudly as the other boy glares at him. Nice to meet you, Izu. Izu huffs a sigh. Get up, asshat. We're going again. Hitoshi stops laughing instantly. Wait, let me catch my breath first. Go easy on me, he pleads desperately as the quirkless boy gets into a fighting stance, eyes locked on Hitoshi. Sheet, I'm going to be so sore tomorrow. Izuku happily jumps from rooftop to rooftop, his mind filled with thoughts about his interaction earlier that day. Does this count as a friend? I think it does. I'm counting it. This was Izuku's first real friend since he was 4. Although Bakugo was definitely not his friend anymore, before he had been diagnosed as quirkless, Izuku likes to think that they had been close. And so, Izuku is having a good day, probably the best he's had in a while. Except for when he got Eraserhead's number. He cheerfully bounds around the rooftops, listening for any signs of trouble as he thinks back about Eraserhead. He kept calling me Nightfall, I wonder why. Maybe it's my vigilante name? That would be awesome. Izuku's thoughts are abruptly interrupted by a quiet explosion, followed by shouting. He quickly makes his way toward the sound, glancing over the edge of the roof. There, he spots a villain holding a dagger to a familiar-looking teenager. Izuku squints, trying to make out the figures in the dark, and notices the spiky blonde hair on the teenager. He SCKs in a breath. OF dash, what do I do now? Frozen in place, Izuku watches as the villain presses the dagger against his childhood friend's throat, a trickle of blood running down his neck. Bakugo struggles against the restraint of larger man, but to Izuku's surprise, no explosions go off. Move. Move. Help him. Do what you would do even if it wasn't Kaken. With a deep breath, Izuku attempts to regain his composure, before promptly jumping from the roof. He lands softly, but both the villain and Bakugo turn toward the noise. Eh? You're that Nightfall fighter I've been hearing all about, yeah? The villain moves the knife from Bakugo's throat and Izuku breathes out a sigh of relief as the criminal shifts his attention from his intended victim. They say you're unstoppable and can't feel pain or something. Sounds like bullshit to me, but let's put that theory to the test, shall we? In a swift movement, the man lunges forward, slashing the knife. Izuku easily dodges it, grabbing onto the man's arm and pulling him forward. He stumbles but manages to regain his balance before hitting the ground. You little punk! Don't get so cocky now. The knife is thrown from the villain's hand but misses Izuku by a long shot. Izuku scoffs, before quickly running toward the man. Then he hears Bakugo's voice call out to him. He has some type of knife quirk, you idiot. Watch your back. Izuku freezes, not because of the words, but because he hasn't heard that voice in months. A sharp pain cuts through his shoulder as the dagger comes flying back like a boomerang, pulling him back to the present. The man begins to laugh, catching the knife and throwing it again. Once more, Izuku dodges the initial throw, then dashes toward the villain. He slams into the larger man, knocking them both to the ground, before landing a punch on his face, in hopes to knock him out. When the first hit doesn't do the job, he continues with the barrage of punches. Once again, Izuku feels his skin being sliced by a flying knife. Ignoring the searing pain in his shoulder, he hits the man once more, square in the face, and the villain falls unconscious. Izuku quickly binds the man's hands behind his back and reports the location to the police. As he begins to leave, trying to avoid Bakugo at all costs, the blonde boy speaks up. I could have saved myself, he snarls. I didn't need your help. Izuku stares at him for a moment, then nods before continuing his exit. But, thank you. For helping me. Bakugo's voice is much quieter this time. Izuku freezes. Bakugo has never thanked anyone in his life. He's never spoken in such a soft tone before. Does he recognize me? What do I do? With a curt nod, Izuku runs off, his head filled with confusion. This can't be the same person I knew before. No, I must be dreaming. Memories flood Izuku's mind as he runs, memories of burning skin and painful words. For years, Bakugo had bullied Izuku, calling him useless, a waste of space. He yelled and pushed him whenever he attempted to help, never once had he thanked him. It's not possible. Izuku stops running, his breathing shallow as he leans against a wall. His mind is plagued with memories of abuse. This can't be real. It's not real. Nothing is real. As Izuku sinks to the ground, he feels the familiar sensation of being watched. His breath quickens, his heartbeat racing. Did they find me? Oh God, they found me. They're going to hurt me. I need to hide. I need to run. They're going to hurt me. Despite his need to flee, Izuku sinks to the ground, hiding his head in his arms and pushing them into his knees as he begins to rock back and forth. His harsh breathing fills the empty alley. Suddenly, Izuku is a child again, curled up at the back of his closet, hiding from his father's rage. It's not real. It's not real. It's not real. Izuku can hear footsteps slowly approaching him, and his breath speeds up. It's not real, it's not real, it's not real, it's not real. He repeats the mantra under his breath, praying that the footsteps and eyes will leave, that they were just a figment of his imagination. That's when he feels a hand on his shoulder. Shouter knew something was wrong as soon as he saw nightfall. From the top of the roof, he watched as the kid ran, clumsily tripping over things as he went. He didn't notice that I was watching him this time. The hero continues to watch as the child stops running, looking around wildly. He drops to the ground and hides his head between his arms and knees. Concern fills Shouter's mind. Sheet, what happened? Slowly, the underground hero makes his way off the roof, walking toward the trembling child. As he stops a few feet away from him, quiet mumbling reaches his ears and nightfall continues to rock back and forth. Shouter can't decipher the words coming from the kid, but it sounds desperate, pleading. Nightfall, kid. Are you hurt? Shouter squats down next to the child, noticing 2 deep cuts on his upper arm. The man frowns. After a few seconds, he speaks again. It's Eraserhead. Can you hear me? He tries a few more times, but receives no acknowledgement that he had been heard at all. He's not hearing me. His breathing is too fast. At this rate, he's going to pass out. Hesitantly, Shouter reaches out a hand, gently placing it on the boy's shoulder. The vigilante jars back with a cry, shoving Shouter's hand away. Then he begins to sob. Please, don't hurt me. I'm sorry. I'll be good. I'm sorry, don't hurt me. I'll be quiet. Shouter's eyes widen with dread as the kid continues to plead and hyperventilate. Kid, look at me. I'm not going to hurt you. Nightfall pauses, raising his gaze to the hero, his eyes glazed over and distant. Shouter has dealt with plenty of panic attacks and PTSD flashbacks before. Having a hero as a husband and a traumatized son does that, but this was different. He barely knows this kid and from what he can tell, touch is a trigger for him, whereas for Hisashi and Hitoshi, it was a comfort. Not sure of what to do, Shouter attempts to talk to the vigilante, trying to bring him back to the present. Hey, look at me. You're safe. Nobody is going to hurt you. I need you to breathe. I can't, the kid chokes out. Yes, you can. I believe in you. Just follow my counting. He hesitates. Can I hold you? The kid tenses, his eyes slightly more focused than before, then gives a small nod. Shouter gently pulls the small, trembling boy into his arms, then begins to guide his breathing. They stay that way for a long while, so much that Shouter's legs begin to cramp, but eventually, Nightfall's breathing evens out. Izuku can sense a warm presence around him, an aura that feels almost like death, but the steady thump of a heartbeat confirms that he is, unfortunately, very much alive. He's not entirely sure what happened. Izuku remembers being in the alleyway, then suddenly transported into his memories. After that, his recollection becomes hazy. He vaguely remembers a black figure attempting to communicate with him, but Izuku couldn't understand their words. Shifting in his seat, Izuku notices the presence shifting as well. A soft voice breaks the silence. How are you feeling, kid? The voice is gentle and low, but it instantly causes Izuku to tense up. He scrambles back, distancing himself from the embrace of the hero, his eyes widening with alarm. Oh shit, what do I do? The concerned gaze of the hero meets Izuku's wild ones, and his mind begins to race with thoughts. You're such a burden to everyone. Weak. Useless. Can't even help yourself. Hey, kid, look at me. You're safe here. The voice pulls Izuku from his anxious thoughts, and he stares at Eraserhead in silence, unable to find the words to respond. Sorry, he manages to get out, prompting a soft smile from the other. You don't have to apologize. Are you going to tell me what that was about? What was about? Izuku attempts to feign oblivion. The panic attack, Eraser responds, unimpressed. Silence hangs in the air as Izuku struggles to find the right words once more. I have to go. Evasion is always the best tactic. Kid, you're bleeding, the hero points out, standing up as Izuku begins to back away. Sorry, I need to get home. He sprints off, leaving Eraserhead to call after him with questions and offered assistance. Izuku doesn't respond. Instead, he runs home as fast as he can, plagued by his intrusive thoughts. Useless, useless, useless. Upon reaching home, he slams open the door, instantly discarding his dirty vigilante gear and grabbing a knife. You're so effing pathetic. Stop it. I can't believe you had to bother Eraserhead with your stupid panic attack. Shut up. You're disgusting. Just a quirkless, useless waste of space. Shut up. With a growl, Izuku roughly slices his wrists, the blood gushing out immediately, dripping freely onto the floor. The cut is jagged, uneven, but Izuku can't bring himself to care. I don't care that you won't let me effing leave, he spits out bitterly, addressing no one in particular. But at least get rid of these goddamn thoughts. As the dizziness sets in and his vision begins to grow splotchy, Izuku sinks to the floor. Please. I just need it to be quiet for once. I can't handle all the noise. Please, let me stay asleep this time. Hisashi is sweeping the floor of his cafe and definitely not worrying about a certain green bean. No, he's just cleaning, no worries about why the kiddo didn't show up to the event yesterday. Totally not. Why would he worry? Kabayashi has only shown up every Saturday for the past month. So why, when he suddenly misses one, would that cause any concern for the cafe owner? It wouldn't. Definitely not. Hisashi lets out a sigh. I promised Shouter I wouldn't overthink it, but I can't help it. What if he's in trouble? Or hurt somewhere? Yesterday, after waiting with a hot plate of food for hours, anticipating the kid's arrival, Hisashi had returned home nearly in tears. His husband reassured him that Kabayashi was most likely fine, but he couldn't shake off the worry. His thoughts are uninterrupted by the sound of the front door ringing, indicating a customer. Hisashi quickly hides his distress and turns toward the customer, wearing what he hopes is a welcoming smile. Welcome in dash, his voice trails off as he sees the green-haired boy standing in the doorway. Kabayashi! I'm so glad you're here. Let me go grab you some food. Before the boy could protest, the blonde dashes to the back to retrieve some food, relief flooding his chest. As he watches the green bean slowly eat his food, Hisashi studies him. There are dark circles under his eyes and his skin looks more pale than usual. The boy eats slowly, unlike his usual habit of devouring the plate of food. Hisashi notices a slight tremble to the kid's hand. He looks tired, weak. Thank you for the meal, Kabayashi mumbles quietly. Hisashi frowns. What happened to this kid? He keeps spacing out and he looks as if he's going to collapse at any second. He just seems so vulnerable, I don't know what to do. Of course, little listener. Hisashi responds with forced cheerfulness, I missed you yesterday. I was hoping to see you. The kid mumbles out an apology and something about oversleeping. Hey, no worries. You're always welcome here, no matter what day. Hisashi smiles as Kabayashi continues to stare at the table, refusing to meet the other's gaze. The boy's phone buzzes in his pocket, causing him to startle before offering Hisashi a sheepish smile. You go ahead and respond. I'll take the dishes to the back, kiddo. Upon returning, Kabayashi is already standing at the door. And with one last mumbled thank you, he's gone. Hisashi sighs. I'm glad he's okay. Well, somewhat okay. I just wish I could do more for the listener. Shinsu, hey Aizu, can we train today? You, sure. You, meet at the same place as last time? Shinsu, that works. Be there in 30. Izuku sighs as he walks to the beach. He's definitely not in the right mindset for fighting at this moment, but he hopes it can distract him from everything that's been happening. Once he and Shinsu arrive, Izuku shows the other basic techniques for landing good kicks and punches, instructing Shinsu to practice on him. How am I supposed to know if I landed a good hit when you don't feel pain? Shinsu complains, landing another punch to Izuku's raised arms. I do feel pain, I just have a high pain tolerance or something. Oh, so you're just a MSCST, got it. You sure you don't have a quirk? Izuku shoots Shinsu a glare, and the other raises his hands in surrender. Sorry, touchy subject, got it. It's fine. Hit me again. With a sigh that sounds strangely like Kinsi, Shinsu returns to his training. I'm not a MSCST, this is good practice for me too. Shinsu lands a solid kick to Izuku's side, he doesn't even flinch. What, you practicing to be someone's punching bag or something? Shut up. That was a good kick, do it again. Izuku wasn't a MSCST, he was simply learning to endure attacks without reacting. So what if he liked the impact of another's fist against his skin or the jolts of pain that shot through his bones when someone's kicks connected with his body? That didn't make him a MSCST, right? However, his train of thought is abruptly interrupted by a painful punch to the face, snapping him back to reality. What the F dash? I thought we said no face shots. Izuku isn't bothered by the pain. In fact, there's a part of him that strangely enjoys it. Oh F dash, am I a MSCST? But they had previously agreed not to hit above the shoulders. I was aiming for your arms, and you suddenly dropped them. Don't blame me. Shinsu glares at him, but when Izuku doesn't respond, his gaze softens. Aizu, what's going on? You've been zoning out all day. Are you good? Izuku tenses at the question, then raises his hands again, regaining his fighting position. I'm fine. Put your hands up. Hit me again. Shinsu sighs, clearly concerned, but compiles and raises his fists. Izuku desperately tries to avoid Eraserhead during patrol. He hides in alleys, taking down petty criminals and avoids open rooftops. Seeing as it's a relatively quiet night in terms of crime, it goes smoothly. Unfortunately, Izuku's mind remains fixated on the past. For the last few days, he had been constantly replaying memories of his mother in his head. She used to be so sweet, so caring. He thinks back to when he was 3, gazing into his mother's warm eyes and feeling safe in her tight embrace. When he was 4, going to the doctor with his parents, nervously stealing glances at his mother as the doctor spoke, only to witness her face drop. When he was 5, hiding under his covers as his parents screamed downstairs, hoping, praying that they wouldn't notice his existence. On his 6th birthday, his mother arrived home late and drunk. That was when he learned how she truly felt about him. You're just a useless waste of money, she slurred, her words blending together as Izuku stood frozen, horrified, in the kitchen entryway. If you weren't here, Hisashi and I could have been happy. It's all your fault, Izuku. He fled to his room before he could hear the rest, sobbing under his covers late into the night. After that day, his mother offered no apologies, only empty stares, as she ignored his very existence. Lost in his thoughts, Izuku finds himself near his old house. Once he comes back to his senses, he freezes, noticing the familiar surroundings. He slowly makes his way onto the roof of a nearby house, jumping mindlessly to where he used to live. When he gets a few houses away, he halts in his spot. There was someone on the roof of his old home. What the F dash? Who would be on my roof? The town where he used to live was practically a ghost town. Most people left after a multitude of villain attacks continued to happen in nearby areas. So who the F is on my house? Cautiously, Izuku creeps closer, the figure never moving from their spot, sitting near the edge with their head down, slowly swinging their feet. As Izuku finally arrives on his roof, he notices the familiar spiky hair and curses inwardly. I should leave, I really don't want to be here right now. As he turns to jump from the roof, a voice calls out, halting him in his tracks. Oi, the F are you doing here? Izuku freezes. Oh shit. He looks toward the source of the voice and, sure enough, Bakugo is walking toward him. I could ask you the same thing, it's nearly 2 a.m., Izuku responds, trying to maintain a calm demeanor. Bakugo scoffs. You're the famous Nightfall, heh? Not so intimidating up close. Izuku squints his eyes, something is off. Although Bakugo's words carry their usual brashness, they lack their usual bite. Upon closer inspection, Izuku notices tear tracks on the blonde's cheeks. Okay, what the actual F is going on? Who is this imposter? Bakugo returns to sitting on the edge, and after a moment's hesitation, Izuku follows suit, sitting a few feet away. When I heard about Nightfall, I thought he'd be some old guy or whatever, Bakugo remarks, scanning the vigilante from head to toe. But you're a whole but child. Feeling slightly insulted, Izuku glares at him. But he doesn't engage, not wanting his voice to reveal his true identity. Bakugo continues the conversation despite the other's silence. What's your name? 'Cause it's obviously not that Nightfall sheet. That was a shitty name choice on your part. Izuku stares for a second, unimpressed. They both know that as a kid, Bakugo's name of choice was always King Explosion Murder. I didn't choose my own name. I didn't even know I had one until a week ago. Bakugo raises an eyebrow. What, not gonna ask my name? Would you answer if I did? F no. Izuku huffs out a laugh, causing the blonde boy to look at him weird. I understand you're probably like, socially awkward or some shit. Once again, he looks Izuku up and down. But are you really so lonely you gotta befriend every person you see sitting on the roof at 2 a.m.? What are you, an idiot? Recalling how he met Eraserhead, Izuku is relieved that his mask can hide his small smile. Nah, I only seek out the ugly spiky-haired ones, Izuku responds, his voice carrying more confidence than he feels. The F did you just call me? You better shut your fucking rooftop rat butt up, Bakugo snarls. Izuku just laughs more. I bet I could beat you in a fight, though, he retorts. Huh? Not with your skinny butt, you couldn't. Don't fucking underestimate me. As Bakugo starts to get riled up and Izuku continues to laugh, he catches himself. Oh my god, I'm laughing with Kaken Baku on the roof of my old house at 2 a.m. What the F dash? Why are you here, at this house? Izuku questions, curiosity getting the better of him. There's a brief moment of silence, and when Izuku sneaks a glance at Bakugo, he notices that the blonde's eyes are closed. He watches the boy's chest rise and fall in slow, calculated breaths. Bandages peek out from under Bakugo's shirt sleeve, wrapping his upper arm. Before Izuku can think more of it, the other boy begins to speak. I used to know a kid who lived here. He pauses, searching for the right words. We were friends. But he's gone now. So I come visit on Tuesday and Thursday nights, just like I did when we were younger. Izuku is frozen in his spot, trying to comprehend Bakugo's words. Friends? Every week? Bakugo stand, glancing at the vigilante. I'm tired. I'm going home. Without a final farewell, he descends from the roof and begins to walk away. Izuku remains in his spot long after Bakugo's departure, lost in his thoughts about all that has transpired. Izuku sits in his room, his gaze fixed on the All Might posters adorning his walls. The sound of a door slamming open reverberates through the house. He freezes. Where the hell are you, effing brat? A voice yells from the stairway, filled with anger and disgust. Panic rises within Izuku, and he dashes to the closet, desperately seeking refuge. He quietly squeezes himself into the tight space, closing the door and scooching to the back corner, burying himself behind a wall of clothing, hoping to go unnoticed. Loud, heavy footsteps stomp up the stairs, stopping once they reach his bedroom door. The voice grows increasingly menacing. I'm going to count to if this door isn't open by then, it snarls, I'm going to effing kill you. Izuku's breath catches in his throat. Don't move. Don't go out there. 1. Don't move, don't breathe, don't do anything. Stay still. 2. Izuku slowly opens the closet door. No. Don't go out. 3. He stands, his feet carrying him toward the door. No, why are you going there? Go back in the closet. Please. 4. Izuku finds himself standing in front of the door, hand gripping the handle. He's going to hurt you. Don't open the door. Run away. He opens the door. Took you long enough, brat. The faceless man grabs Izuku's small arm, yanking him forward. A cry of pain threatens to escape, but Izuku bites down hard on his lower lip, stifling the sound. Maybe if I'm quiet, he won't take me there. Unfortunately, his attempts at silence were in vain. The door to the basement looms before Izuku, appearing large in comparison to the small child. He stops breathing, eyes wide with terror. No, he pleads, tears streaming down his face. Don't take me down there, please. I'll do anything. Just don't make me go down there. You put up a fight every single effing time. Just shut up and go down. The faceless man barks, opening the door. In a desperate attempt to escape, Izuku wrenches himself from the man's grip. Growling in frustration, he grabs the retreating child by the hair, yanking him backward. Izuku claws at the hand, sobbing in pain and fear. Stop! I don't want to. Don't make me go down there. Stop! With a jolt, Izuku lurches forward, yelling the last stop aloud. He wrestles his blankets off, his heart pounding as he tumbles out of bed. With wide eyes, Izuku stares at the familiar surroundings, his breathing heavy, and his clothes drenched in sweat and tears. Oh! It was just a dream. He runs his hands over his tired face with a sigh. Izuku had hoped that the nightmares would cease after not having slept without the comfort of death in months. So much for getting some actual sleep. In search of a temporary release, he grabs the nearest knife, finding comfort in the cold touch of metal against his skin. I'm going to have to stop by the market soon. I've avoided it for too long. I've probably collected enough blood to last an eternity. Hopefully I can sneak in unnoticed. Izuku walks aimlessly through the neighborhoods, eventually ending up at an empty playground. He sighs and settles onto a swing, pushing himself back and forth in a slow rhythm. His thoughts have grown too loud, his head filled with nightmares and memories that refuse to let him be. It's too early to go on patrol, although still late in the afternoon. The day drags on, the stillness amplifying his unease. Izuku checks his phone, hoping for a distraction from his own mind as he looks at the message he sent Shinsu. Hey, wanna train today? I'm bored lol. Delivered an hour ago. No response. F-. He continues swinging, thinking back to the nightmare he had earlier. No, don't think about that. He attempts to banish it from his mind, standing up and walking back home. But the thoughts persist, clawing at his sanity and plaguing his mind. Nothing feels real. It's too still, too quiet. I need to do something. I need to feel something. The world looks hazy as he returns home, his room feeling more cold and empty than usual. I'll go to the market, yeah. I can collect a bit more blood then head that way. With an empty jar and his set of knives in hand, Izuku sits on the floor. He drags the blade horizontally across his wrists, the blood flowing freely into the waiting container below, providing a strange sense of solace. As he continues collecting, he recalls Shinsu's words from the previous day. I'm not a MSST, it's just a way to get some more supplies. As his vision clears, becoming less hazy, and the tingling sensation from the knife returning, he sighs in relief. After bandaging up his arms, Izuku grabs the extra jars of blood and heads toward the market. As he walks, holding the jars in his arms, they rub against his fresh bandages. It's kind of grounding, the pain. I guess I never feel it for too long since I heal when I die. The pain allows his mind to momentarily clear, and Izuku smiles as he nears the market. As he enters the first set of doors, the bouncer offers him a bright, but confused smile. Vede! You're back! I thought. Izuku raises an eyebrow at the name as the man trails off. Vede! That's what the people are calling you. They love to see you fight. Are you getting in the ring tonight? Izuku shakes his head and the bouncer continues to talk. I heard. Well, I thought you weren't coming back after what happened last time. Izuku winces. Yeah, luckily a healer found me while I was passed out. She fixed me up so. Here I am. He laughs awkwardly and the bouncer squints his eyes for a moment before opening the door. Well, it's not the first time someone's returned from the dead. Izuku flinches despite the bouncer's obviously joking tone. There's a bunch of strange quirks out here, aren't there? Izuku nods and quickly walks through the door, trying to escape the conversation. Verde! Come again to fight soon. The people miss you. Fighting seems nice, but I have patrol soon and don't want to get recognized. Instead, he makes his way to the booths. He found one last time that directly trades blood for money, while also selling blood to the customers of the market. The man behind the counter glances at Izuku with a curious look as he drops off the jars. I don't want to see the guy you drained to get all this, he chuckles. Izuku offers a half-hearted laugh before collecting his money, and proceeds to visit other booths, picking up a few items along the way. Feeling a bit more grounded, Izuku retreats to floor 0, sitting in the stadium surrounding the ring. He watches intently as the fights unfold before him, absorbing every piece of information he can and analyzing the winners. Tonight, he decides not to fight himself, as his arms are not in the best condition, opting to observe instead. Throughout the night, he takes mental notes and immersed himself in the energy of the fights. Several people approach him, asking if Verde would be fighting tonight. Each time, he shakes his head, declining their requests. As he places bets at the front, the men seem surprised to see him, meaning they most likely were the ones to throw out his body. He knew it was reckless coming back, but when questioned about it, he simply gives the same excuse that he told the bouncer. Although the men seem suspicious, they don't press anymore. As the night progresses, Izuku checks the time and realizes it's already approaching midnight. Already in most of his vigilante gear, Izuku makes his exit. Making his way through the town, bringing him closer to his old house, Izuku doesn't run into many villains, so he arrives quicker than he expected. Once again, a head of spiky blonde hair is visible on his roof, and Izuku walks up behind the oblivious boy. He begins to speak, but before he can make a noise, something catches his eye and his heart sinks. Fresh burns now mar the arm that was once covered in bandages. The realization hits Izuku hard. Did he do that to himself? They look like the explosions he would use against me in the past. The blonde finally notices Izuku's presence and turns to glare up at him. The F are you doing here again, rat? He only raises an unimpressed eyebrow at the nickname as he tries to brush off his unease. I thought you said Tuesdays and Thursdays? It's Thursday, isn't it? Bakugo scoffs, but doesn't tell him to leave, so he settles down on the edge next to the explosive boy. They sit in comfortable silence for a while, before Izuku breaks it. So, what do you usually do up here? Bakugo raises his gaze, a look that Izuku has never seen before crossing his face, before going back to staring at his hands. The light swinging of his legs comes to a halt. I usually think about the past. About what I wish I had done differently. Izuku's breath catches. What do you mean? He asks slowly. Bakugo meets his gaze again, a strange, pained look on his face. You should really go. You shouldn't be around me. His crimson eyes fill with a mixture of sadness and regret. Izuku continues staring, wide-eyed. Why not? You're a vigilante or whatever, right? They fight for good and all that shit. They're good people. You're probably a good person. Bakugo's voice turns bitter at the last sentence. Izuku waits for him to continue. I'm not a good person, he whispers. Izuku feels his world crumbling around him. Everything he has ever known, everything he has grown up around, all shatters before his eyes. He continues to stare into Bakugo's eyes, large, misty, and expectant. Oh. He wants me to say something. Does he want reassurance that he's not a bad person? I doubt that's true. Izuku begins. Don't give me that sheet, the blonde snaps immediately, his voice much louder than it was an instant ago. You don't effing know me. I've done some effed up shit. His voice cracks. It drops to a whisper. I think I killed my best friend. Everything goes still. The wind ceases to blow, the crickets fall silent. All that remains is the sound of Bakugo's ragged breath as he attempts to hold back his tears. Is he talking about me? He can't be. This can't be real. No. Nothing is real. This isn't real. Izuku rises to his feet, slowly backing away. His vision grows hazy once more, and it feels as if his body no longer belongs to him. He watches as Bakugo says something, but Izuku can't hear it, can't comprehend it. He doesn't want to. Instead, he runs. Izuku jumps from the roof, not caring how awkwardly he lands before continuing to sprint, ignoring the shouts that follow him. His vision tunnels, his breathing grows heavy. He doesn't know where he's going. I need to do something. I need to feel something. He glances at his wrists. It's not enough. Somehow, he ends up at the market, his legs carrying him there without a conscious thought. He has no memory of running there, or passing through the bouncer, or signing up to fight. Yet there he stands, in the center of a ring, pummeling his poor opponent mercilessly. He fights. And fights. And fights. All night long. He continues to push himself further, fueled by rage and desperation. As he prepares for another round, ready to enter the ring once more, one of the men from the front intercepts him. "Vere, you need to go home." His voice is soft, accompanied by a pitying look that Izuku despises. "You don't want a repeat of last time." "I can fight again." "No, kid, you can't. You've won a bunch of money already. Just go home, Vere." Scowling, Izuku snatches the wad of cash the guy holds out to him and angrily storms out of the market. "Why do they get to dictate when I should leave? I could have fought more. I need to fight more." As he limps homeward, he feels a constant gaze upon him. Effing Eraserhead. Growling, he continues. "I don't have time to care for that BS study anyways." Izuku walks as fast as he can, granted it's not very fast, seeing as his left leg drags behind him slightly. But anger fuels his every step and he continues to pull himself forward. Lost in his thoughts, Izuku stumbles on a large pothole, causing him to lurch forward. Can this night get any effing worse? He fumes before continuing to walk. But his pant leg catches on a protruding piece of asphalt, tearing loudly. Izuku halts in the alleyway, trying to get his breathing under control. But he can't contain the red-hot rage coursing through his veins. In one swift motion, he turns to the side and swings his fist, striking the brick wall of the alleyway with brutal force. Pain shoots up his arm, vibrating through his bones. He hits it again. And again. Continuing until blood drips down the wall, his knuckles crying out in agony. At one point, a sickening crack resonates from his clenched fist and pain shoots up his arm, but he ignores it. With one final punch, Izuku leaves the blood-stained walls behind and resumes his walk. Knowing he cannot return home, thanks, Eraserhead, Izuku heads toward a run-down hotel a few blocks away. He enters the empty establishment and approaches the front desk, making no attempt to put on a fake smile or hide his weariness. "Do you have any available rooms?" he asks, his voice lacking its usual facade. The woman at the desk stares at him, eyes widening before quickly recovering and typing on her computer. "Yes, we have a few. Anything specific you'd like?" "Sir?" Izuku briefly contemplates before responding, his voice laced with exhaustion. "Just give me one with a bathtub. And bring lots of ice. Please," he adds as an afterthought. "Oh, of course. Here's your room key, and I can check you in right here." After exchanging a wad of cash, Izuku slowly makes his way up to his room. Room service promptly delivers the requested ice, and so Izuku starts running a bath. Turning the water to its coldest setting, he allows the tub to fill as he strips out of his bloody clothes. Gazing at his reflection in the mirror, Izuku takes note of his new injuries. His eye is swollen and a deep gash marks his eyebrow. Dried blood stains his face, most likely from an earlier nosebleed. Examining his body, he finds large bruises forming on his ribs and chest, along with claw marks on his arms from his opponent's desperate attempts to escape his grasp, leaving lines of red and peeled skin. Deep claw marks on his thigh catch his attention. 3 lines, dug deep into his leg with a matching pair sitting upon his back. That one girl had claws for nails. Must have been from her. Sighing, Izuku averts his gaze from the mirror. He no longer recognizes the person staring back at him. He gathers the ice, pouring it into the tub before slowly easing himself into the freezing water. It sloshes over the edge of the tub, but Izuku pays it no mind. The ice bites at his skin as he submerges his head beneath the water. The burning cold surrounds him as he slowly loses oxygen. His body attempts to fight back against the sensation, desperate to break the surface, but he remains submerged. Gradually, his body numbs, the pain from his fresh wounds subsiding. He's at peace. Remembering the peace from the previous night, Izuku scowls to himself. He woke up late in the afternoon, shivering from the remnants of the freezing water. The ice hadn't melted much over the night, and frostbite scars crawl across his skin, his fingertips tainted black. "Yeah, I'm not doing that again," he mutters to himself. After cleaning his mess in the bathroom and checking out of the hotel, he finally checks his phone. He has 5 unread messages from Shinsu, sent throughout the past 2 days. Shinsu: "Hey, sorry, I didn't see your message, I can still hang out if you want." Shinsu: "I'll take that as a no, or hope you're good though." Shinsu: "Hey, are you still coming to train today?" Shinsu: "I'm not trying to spam you or anything, but are you okay?" Shinsu: "I'm getting worried, please text me when you can." Izuku stared at the texts in bewilderment. Why would Shinsu be worried? Sheet, what do I do? Should I respond? I should probably respond. Hey, sorry about that, I'm okay DW. Shinsu's response comes instantly. Shinsu, are you sure? WTF happened, you just disappeared and didn't respond? Shinsu, whatever, you can explain it later, can you still meet up? I can be there in like 30. Yeah, that works. Sighing, Izuku hurries to get to his house. He throws on whatever clean clothes he can find. Before rushing to the beach. When he arrives, Shinsu is already there. He leaps up from where he was sitting and grabs Izuku by the shoulders. What the F happened, dude? I was worried shitless. Don't just ghost me like that. At least text me or something. I waited here for like an hour this morning. Sorry, Izuku replies sheepishly. The tired eyes continue to watch him, waiting for him to explain. He doesn't. What? Izuku tilts his head, confused. What do you mean, what? Are you okay? I've asked that like 3 times but you haven't answered. I'm alright, really I am. Shinsu looks unconvinced. Can we just spar? I could use some stress relief right now. Shinsu sighs. Fine, but Aizu, please talk to me if you need anything. I'll listen, really. With a quick thank you, they begin to train. However, as the fight goes on, one thing becomes abundantly clear. Either Izuku is very out of it, or Shinsu has suddenly become a master at fighting. With a swift kick, Izuku finds himself being knocked back, head hitting the ground with a thud. Dude, you're so out of it today, that's like the 5th time I've knocked you down. Shinsu reaches out a hand, helping the green-haired boy to his feet. Are you sure you're alright? Usually I can't even land a single hit on you. With a huff, Izuku sheds his jacket. Okay Asat, I was just warming up, I'm getting serious now. The heat must have been getting to my head. He holds his arms out with a smirk. Come at me, Beach. You won't knock me down again. He waits for the attack from the tired boy, but it never comes. Instead, Shinsu freezes. His face pale, eyes blown wide. Lowering his arms, Izuku glances behind him. Upon seeing nothing, he turns back to Shinsu. What's wrong? What happened? The boy stays silent, his eyes locked on Izuku's arms. Izuku follows his gaze. Sheet. He quickly snatches his jacket from where it lies in the sand a few feet away, shoving his arms through the sleeves in a discreet attempt to hide the large scars adorning his skin. They were still bright pink, making it abundantly obvious that they were recent, and Izuku curses himself for making such a simple mistake. Aizu! Don't. Just, don't say anything. Izuku shoots a glare at the frozen boy, his embarrassment hidden behind anger. But those looked bad. Like really dash. I said don't, Izuku snaps back. No, this is serious Aizu. His voice is firm, unwavering. You don't get to be all secretive and mysterious when your effing life is on the line. Shinsu finally moves from where he was frozen, staring intently into Izuku's eyes. My life isn't on the effing line. And I don't need some a-hole who can barely take care of himself worrying over me. So F off. Izuku turns on his heel, throwing up sand as he storms off. He ignores the yells from Shinsu, along with the sinking feeling in his heart. After wandering around aimlessly for hours, Izuku's stomach growls loudly, reminding him of his hunger. He ends up at MIC's cafe. Walking in and settling down on the ground, instantly swarmed by cats. MIC doesn't notice him for a while, but once he does, he flashes the kid a bright smile. Kabayashi! It's great to see you again. Offering a small smile of his own, Izuku makes his way to a booth, sliding in across from the loud blonde. He stares down at his hands, absent-mindedly picking at the peeling skin from his frostbite as MIC brings out some food. As he slowly picks at his food, eating as much as he can stomach, which isn't much at the moment, he can feel the worried gaze of the hero. Hey Green Bean, you seem upset. Are you okay? MIC's voice is soft and kind, filled with warmth. Suddenly, it all hits Izuku at once. With teary eyes, he meets MIC's gaze. I keep messing everything up. I think I just lost the only friend I have. MIC offers a sympathetic smile, before standing up. How about I go get us some hot tea, then we can talk about it? Izuku nods, not meeting his kind eyes. Hisashi walks to the back, grabbing the kettle and teacups. He's finally opening up to me. I need to not mess this up. I just need to be there for him. With a determined look in his eye, he grabs the tray. I can do this. He walks back into the room with the tea, but instead of a green-haired child sitting at the booth, all that's left is a half-eaten plate of food. Hisashi deplates when he realizes the kid left. Damn it, I already messed it up, didn't I? With a sigh, he pours himself a cup of tea and sits in the empty booth. That kid seems to have new scars on him every time I see him. Both physically and emotionally. I just wish he would let me help. As Izuku perches on the roof, watching for any suspicious activity, his thoughts race. I think I've ruined all my connections, haven't I? Well, 3 out of 1 left to go. He laughs humorlessly to himself. At least I don't have to worry about them leaving me. They can't leave me if I leave first, I guess. And they'll never find out I'm quirkless too. He pauses. Well, not quirkless I guess, more like an abomination. AF up. No matter what you call it. It's for the best. I only ruin things. It was abundantly clear that something was wrong with Nightfall. Not only did he not notice as Shouter watched him, he also kept losing fights with villains. He would enter a fight without a plan, distract the criminal for just long enough for the victim to escape, before giving up fighting. Shouter winces as he watches a petty criminal repeatedly punch the young vigilante. I know that kid could have beat that low-level villain with his hands tied. Why isn't he fighting back? During the 5th fight, as Nightfall takes a multitude of punches to the face with no reaction, the villain pulls out a knife. Shouter's eyes widen, but the vigilante doesn't move. He doesn't attempt to dodge the oncoming blade. He doesn't try to block it or escape. No. He just stands there, seemingly unaffected. The knife pierces his skin, but the kid still doesn't react, only slightly wincing. In pain. How did he not react? That must have hurt, even I would react to getting stabbed by a knife. That's it. I'm intervening. Unable to watch any longer, Shouter jumps from the roof, shooting his capture weapon out swiftly. It surrounds the villain instantly and Nightfall slides to the ground. With a swift kick, the criminal is unconscious, then quickly restrained. Shouter rushes to Nightfall's side as the kid rummages through his pockets. Hey, Eraserhead. I could have taken that guy, you know. Sure kid, on any other day, I would have believed you. But tonight? You're not putting up much of a fight, Shouter responds, concerned. The boy just shrugs, his indifference evident. Do you have any bandages on you? Shouter glances at the knife sticking out of Nightfall's side, dripping with blood. In my left pocket, bottom one, the vigilante replies, distracted. In one swift motion, he grips the handle of the knife and yanks it out, sking in a breath of pain. Shouter's eyes widen in shock. Why would you do that? You're not supposed to remove the weapon when stabbed. The kid shrugs again, tossing the knife aside, making Shouter panic even more, although he attempts not to show it. Kid, I have to take you to the hospital, he insists. Nightfall's eyes harden as he glares up at the older man. No. I'm not going to the hospital. With a desperate sigh, Shouter tries again, examining the wound closer. Why did I know you would say that? He mutters under his breath. At least let me take you to my house. You need medical attention immediately. Nightfall pushes the hero away and levels a defiant glare at him. Look, I appreciate your help, really I do. But if you're going to force me to go to the hospital or your house over a minor injury like this one, I will walk the 3 effing miles back to my own home and patch it up myself. Shouter just stares, dumbfounded. A minor injury? Kid, you were stabbed. Once again, Nightfall just shrugs. Shouter thinks this must be a habit of his. The green-eyed boy begins to get up, and Shouter reaches out a hand. Okay, fine. I'll patch you up here, just sit down. As the hero begins to clean the wound, he glances down at the vigilante. He wears a bored look on his face. Shouter sighs. Look, Nightfall, he begins tentatively. I know you could have taken any of those criminals by yourself usually. You could have probably beaten all 5 of them at once on a normal day. Do you want to talk about it? Nightfall's green eyes widen, as if surprised the hero noticed. This only confirms Shouter's suspicions. He stubbornly looks away, refusing to meet Shouter's gaze. I'm fine. And this is taking too long. I'm going home. He stands again with the support of the wall, and begins to limp his way down the alley. There's no way in hell that Shouter will let this kid walk home alone, so he follows. Nightfall, something is obviously wrong. I won't push, but if you're fighting like this, maybe it's best for you to stay home for a few nights. Nightfall just scowls. Leave me alone, old man. I'm not trying to insult you, I just want you to take care of yourself. Why the F is everyone suddenly worried about my ability to take care of myself? The sudden outburst catches the Shouter guard, but he stays quiet. I've managed just fine for 6 years, I don't suddenly need your help now. The last part is said so quietly, Shouter has to strain to hear it. He adds a mental note to ask the vigilante about that later. When Shouter continues to follow the injured teen, Nightfall turns around, glaring at the hero. Look, I'm already 3 for 3 with ruined relationships tonight, so excuse me if I'm not wanting to make it 4 ahead. He spits the words with venom, but as soon as he's done talking, he snaps his mouth closed, his teeth clicking together. Shouter instantly softens. What happened, kid? Nightfall's eyes fill with tears as he begins to speak quietly. I was a JRK to one of the only friends I have. I'm a coward. I ran from the only other 2 people who seemed to care about me for some goddamn reason. He takes a deep breath before continuing. I keep ruining everything and I don't know how to stop. So you should leave me alone, before I F this up too. The vigilante turns, before speaking under his breath. They were right after all. I'm toxic. I ruin everything I touch. Shouter doesn't think he was supposed to hear the last part, but he did nonetheless. His heart fills with sorrow for the young kid. He reaches out, grabbing Nightfall's arm lightly, stopping him from going too far. Can I hug you? Nightfall looks startled, taking a hesitant step back instinctively before giving a small nod. In an instant, Shouter pulls the child into his arms, wrapping them tightly around the boy's small shoulders. The vigilante tenses at the sudden comfort, but after a moment, relaxes, wrapping his arms around the hero and burying his face into the other's shoulder. Silent sobs rack the boy's body, his shoulders trembling and fists clenching onto the back of Shouter's shirt. Shouter softly pets Nightfall's hair, and they stay in the same position for minutes longer. When the sobs finally subside, Shouter offers to take the kid home, and Nightfall hesitantly agrees. They walk through the street slowly, Shouter following Nightfall's lead. My house is the one on the corner. I have to go in through the back, so you can leave now. The green eyes stare intently into Shouter's tired ones, causing him to sigh and give in. As the kid walks up the road, Shouter follows from a distance, watching as nightfall goes behind the small house on the corner. The hero doesn't believe that this paranoid kid would give away his address easily, so he stays, watching from afar. And soon enough, he watches as a hooded figure pulls himself onto the roof, glancing around before jumping away. With his stab wound, he shouldn't be running around like that. I need to make sure he actually gets home safely. And so, Shouter follows the speedy vigilante for a long time, watching as he goes in the opposite direction that he showed the hero earlier. He watches as the kid slinks around an abandoned, half-fallen building. He can't be living in there. It looks like it's about to fall down. But the boy walks into the abandoned area carefree, oblivious of the unsafe structure. As Shouter arrives home, he sees his husband typing away on his computer, engrossed in his work. The dim, blue light casts an eerie glow in the otherwise dark room. But Hisashi must have been in the dark for a long time, so when Shouter walks into his home, the blonde gasps, his eyes already used to the dark. "Shouter, is that blood?" The tired man looks down at his attire. "Don't worry, it's not mine. Nightfall got injured, I was helping him." "That doesn't make me feel any better, Sho." Hisashi follows Shouter as he changes into clean clothes, a concerned look creasing his face. "He got stabbed." "Stabbed? Is he at the hospital? We should go visit him." Hisashi jumps into action, searching around for his keys and wallet. With a sigh, Shouter redirects the blonde's attention back to him. "What? He is at the hospital, right? You didn't just leave him there?" "No, I didn't leave him there, Zashi. But he refused to go to the hospital, so I had to patch him up myself." Relieved, Hisashi joins Shouter as he sits on the couch, snuggling up next to him. "That poor kid, he must have been in so much pain." "He probably was, but you wouldn't be able to tell by how he was acting," the hero sighs, absent-mindedly playing with Hisashi's hair. "I made sure he got home safely. Though I'm not sure how safe he'll be there." Concern fills Hisashi's face once more as he attempts to understand. "Why? Do you think he's living in an abusive household or something?" Shouter shakes his head. "No, he was living in an abandoned building. It looked like it was ready to collapse at any moment. I don't know if he has family there or if he's living alone." Shouter sighs again, before continuing. "He was on the verge of a breakdown when I found him, something about messing everything up. I wasn't sure what to do." Hisashi nods sympathetically. The green bean from work came by and said something similar. "I messed up, though, and wasn't able to do anything. I told you he would show up." Before he can continue, a rustling sound comes from the other room. Both men freeze. It's 4 a.m., who would be moving around at this time? They watch as a door slowly opens, and Hitoshi steps out hesitantly. "Ah, there's my little insomniac," Hisashi chuckles, motioning for him to join them. As the boy gets closer, it's clear that he has been crying. His tired eyes are red and puffy, and his lower lip trembles slightly. "Toshi, what's wrong? Talk to us," his husband urges, picking up on the same signs Shouter had seen. Hitoshi settles down between the two as they make space for him, their arms wrapping protectively around his lanky frame. I couldn't sleep." He takes a shuddering breath, sinking deeper into the comforting embrace of his father's. "I really messed things up with my friend. Aizu was the first one to be kind to me and accept me. But he took off his sweater and he had these scars. All over his wrists." A heavy silence fills the room as Hitoshi's words hang in the air. His parents wait patiently for him to continue. "Whatever you're thinking, it was so much worse. And they weren't old scars either. But I froze. And I pushed him for answers. And he left. And he's not answering my messages." His quiet voice breaks and tears steam down his face. Pulling his son's head against his chest, Shouter tightens his embrace around his family. "It's going to be okay. He'll come around." "He's right, little listener," Hisashi chimes in, voice filled with reassurance. "You were only concerned for your friend. Aizu sounds like a smart kid. He'll come around eventually. Just give him a little space." The three fall into a comfortable silence as they all cuddle together on the couch, their embrace offering solace and support through the night. Slowly, their breathing evens out, and one by one, they slip into a peaceful sleep. Over the course of the next week, Izuku isolates himself in his home, staying away from everyone and neglecting his responsibilities. He even skips his patrols. In his self-imposed solitude, he dies, though he's unsure whether it's caused by starvation or dehydration. After his last encounter with Present MIC, Izuku had rushed home, feeling nauseous to his stomach, and thrown up the little food he had consumed at the cafe. So when Izuku wakes up, laying on the cold floor, his stomach growls loudly, a stark reminder of his neglected needs. He checks his phone. 10 new messages from Shinsu. Izuku ignores them. Instead, his thoughts drift to Bakugo. I missed 3 meetings. I hope he's not too upset with me. What am I saying? He's probably forgotten about me already. Rising from his spot on the floor, Izuku searches for his vigilante gear with a sigh. I've sulked enough. I need to go out and move around. For once, Izuku doesn't feel the burden of eyes on him, although that's most likely due to the fact that he strayed from the rooftops, slinking in the shadows instead. After stopping a petty thief, Izuku makes his way toward his old home. I shouldn't even call it a home, it was just a house. It doesn't come anywhere close to being a home. Upon reaching the house, Izuku easily spots Bakugo sulking, sitting on the edge of the roof and angrily kicking his feet. Izuku climbs onto the roof quietly, but Bakugo instantly turns around, eyes wide. The crimson eyes narrow once he spots the vigilante. What the F dash? The blonde growls, stomping over to Izuku. Where the F were you, effing rat? I thought you. He stops himself mid-sentence, frustration evident in his huff, before retreating to his spot on the edge. Left me. I thought you left me. That's what he was going to say, wasn't it? Bakugo looks up from where he's sitting and jays his head, as if to say, you coming or what? With a hidden smile, Izuku starts walking toward the blonde, but a sudden rush of lightheadedness causes him to stumble. He barely catches himself, his legs feeling unstable as he sits down beside Bakugo, who looks at him with a perplexed expression. The boy tilts his head, narrowing his eyes and scrunching his nose. Izuku can almost see the floating question marks above Bakugo's head. He snorts at the thought. Just then, Izuku's stomach growls loudly, causing him to wince and offer the blonde boy a sheepish smile. He rises. Stay here. The vigilante watches Bakugo's retreating figure. He had new bandages this time. Izuku sighs. After a few minutes, the blonde returns, carrying a bento box and water bottle. He scowls, looking anywhere but at Izuku as he shoves them into his hands. What's this for? Izuku asks, surprised by the other's actions. To eat, dumbass. I could hear your stomach growling from a mile away, Bakugo grumbles. Izuku thanks him, still shocked. Yup. Aliens have taken Katsuki Bakugo and replaced him with this strange person. Opening the bento, Izuku pauses. I need you to turn around. I can't eat with my mask on. Bakugo huffs, but obliges, turning his back toward the masked vigilante. Sitting back to back, Izuku unzips the mask, hastily shoveling food into his mouth. A comfortable silence falls between the two. Hey, Izuku starts, hesitantly. Can you tell me more about what you told me last time? The atmosphere instantly grows tense and the green-haired boy inwardly curses himself for asking. After an uncomfortable minute of silence, Bakugo finally responds, speaking in a quiet tone, one that he never knew possible for the explosive boy. It's true, what I said. I caused my best friend to die. As Katsuki listens to nightfall eat, he silently gazes at the stars above. He can't see many, but it's still a comforting view. Hey, the vigilante breaks the silence, speaking in a strangely familiar voice. Katsuki has never heard him speak without a mask before. Can you tell me more about what you told me last time? Katsuki tenses. He had expected the question to arise eventually, but he didn't expect it so soon. What the F do I say? Should I tell the truth? What if he leaves when I tell him? With a heavy sigh, Katsuki decides it's best to get it over with. Even if Nightfall ends up leaving, Katsuki knows he deserves it after everything he's done. It's true, what I said, he admits, keeping his voice quiet, almost hoping Nightfall won't hear him. I caused my best friend to die. Silence. Katsuki continues. What do I even have to lose at this point? I don't even know if I could consider him a friend after everything I did. I've already told you, I'm not a good person. But you have no idea how bad it was. We grew up together, our moms were friends. His mother was so much nicer, she always took care of him, always saying she was proud of him and that she loved him. Mine never did that. Katsuki can feel the bitterness seeping into his voice but forces it back. I was so jealous. So when my quirk manifested and his didn't, I felt this sick sense of satisfaction. I was finally better than him at something. He could never look down on me again. He was always so kind to everyone, people liked him. But they never liked me. So, since I finally beat him at something, I used that opportunity to bully him. And it was awful, Nightfall. It was really bad. The silence persists. With a sigh, Katsuki knows he has to finish. The last time I saw him, a few months ago, I think I pushed him to his death. I used my quirk on him, I create explosions from my hands, and I told him to kill himself. Take a swan dive off the roof. That's what I said. Bitterness fills his voice once more, but this time it's directed at himself. His eyes grow misty as he continues to talk. And I know I shouldn't have. Hell, even in the moment I knew that. But standing there, surrounded by the smell of burning flesh, you know what I did, Nightfall? I laughed. And then I left. Tears begin to trail down Katsuki's face as he fights back a sob. I don't deserve to cry, not after what I did. And then the next day, he wasn't at school. It took me a full week before I came here. I came to talk to him, but he was gone. And by the looks of it, nobody has lived here for years. And I tried to text him, to call him. But his phone was disconnected. I killed him. His voice breaks on the last sentence and Katsuki stops talking, putting his head in his hands. After a moment of silence, he feels a hand gently rest on his shoulder. Katsuki looks up to meet Nightfall's tear-filled gaze. It wasn't your fault, Kaken. You didn't kill him. Katsuki freezes, and he watches as the other boy's eyes widen, his shoulders tensing. What did you just call me? He demands, his voice suddenly sharp. The green eyes watch him for a moment, before his eyebrows draw up in confusion. With a tilt of his head, Nightfall asks, "What do you mean?" Angrily wiping away his tears, Katsuki glares at the boy. Don't F with me. You just called me something. What did you call me? Once again, the vigilante watches him with confusion. I'm sorry, but I really didn't call you anything. I said it wasn't your fault and that you didn't kill him. That's bullshit. Katsuki snarls, before taking a deep breath in attempts to calm himself. And it was my fault. You weren't there. You didn't hear me. You didn't see him. But still, I don't think he would want you to blame yourself. I bullied him. I was horrible to him. How can you ? Yes, you were. Nightfall interjects, his intense glare cutting Katsuki off. You were absolutely awful to him, from the sound of it, and nobody deserves that. And yes, I'm angry at you for hurting an innocent person. But that doesn't mean you don't have the right to mourn him. Katsuki stares, wide-eyed, trying to make sense of the situation. Who even is this fucker? And if he was here, he would have every right to not forgive you, Nightfall continues, but he wouldn't want you to blame yourself and beat yourself up like this. Katsuki glares at the hooded figure, his mind filled with conflicting emotions. I'm done with this conversation. I'm going home. The vigilante lets him go in silence. Once home, Katsuki slams his door shut, stomping into the bathroom. Who the F is he to tell me how Deku would feel? That rat doesn't know anything about him. Or me. He has no effing right to talk to me about him. He peels back the bandages from his upper arm in an attempt to distract himself, wincing slightly as the fabric rubs against the raw skin. Grabbing fresh bandages, he begins to reapply the gauze. I'm not weak for doing this, he reassures himself. If anything, it makes me strong. Besides, I deserve it. I can take the pain. He had to endure this for years, so I can too. After tending to his burns, Katsuki throws himself onto his bed, the hard mattress causing a dull ache in his shoulder. Katsuki doesn't mind the pain. It reminds him who he is. Reminds him why everyone needs to stay away from him. He sighs, thinking through his rooftop encounter. It wasn't your fault, Kaken. You didn't kill him. With a frustrated growl, Katsuki hurls his pillow across the room. It hits the wall with a soft thud before landing on the floor. I know I heard that rooftop rat say Kaken. I know it. Unless. Maybe the lack of sleep has finally taken its toll. Katsuki constantly had nightmares when he tried to sleep early, so he coped by visiting Deku's old house. When he returned, he usually managed to sleep soundlessly. Maybe I really did just imagine it. Besides, he seemed genuinely confused when I confronted him. But those eyes. His voice, even his freckles. With a frustrated sigh, Katsuki turns over and closes his eyes, silently praying that the nightmares will stay away for tonight. After Bakugo leaves, Izuku continues to wander around the abandoned neighborhood. I can't believe I called him Kaken. I hope I played that off well enough. He sighs. How could he have made such a simple mistake? Izuku had gone straight to meeting Bakugo, so there was still plenty of time for patrol. But the memory of how he sobbed into Eraserhead's shoulder causes him to cringe, embarrassed by his behavior. I can just patrol a different side of town. I'm already near the east side, so I won't run into him. Moving across the rooftops, Izuku quickly spots a man harassing a woman for money. She continues to walk down the street, trying to tell him to go away, when he pulls out a knife. Wrong move, fucker. Izuku jumps down, swinging his staff toward the assailant. As the man is thrown to the side, the knife flies out of his hand. He leans over the fallen man, pressing his forearm into the other's neck. While the criminal scratches at the hooded savior, Izuku glances at the lady. She still hasn't left, instead she stands, watching Izuku with wide eyes, one hand clutching her opposite arm. As the man beneath Izuku loses consciousness, the green-haired boy quickly binds his hands before approaching the women. Are you hurt? She nods, removing her hand to reveal a bleeding cut on her arm. The knife nicked me when you hit him. It's not too deep though. With a nod, Izuku reaches for his medical supplies. I'm sorry about that, I need to be more careful with my attacks. He quickly cleans the lady's wound, bandaging it tightly before calling the police. Wait, she calls out as Izuku starts to leave. What was your name? He pauses briefly before offering her a smile. Nightfall. With that, he disappears into the night. The police are much faster on this side of the town, their presence audible from the distance while Izuku continues searching for crime. As he completes a loop around the area, circling back to where he started, he hears a ruckus coming from the same street. Curiosity getting the best of him, Izuku peeks over the roof, only to see the number 2 hero, Endeavor. Endeavor? What is he doing here? If he was being honest, Izuku had never been too fond of the number 2 hero, finding him rude and excessively aggressive. Listening in on the conversation, he quickly realizes that Endeavor is pressuring the women for information about the vigilante who saved her. However, she remains tight-lipped, refusing to give anything beyond Nightfall's name. I will ask you one more time, woman, the hero growls, his temper rising. What did Nightfall look like? I need to know what weapons he carries, his quirk, and the direction he went. The lady glares up at him defiantly. I've already told you, no. I don't have to tell you anything. Now please, for the last time, let me go. As if to prove Izuku's earlier point, Endeavor raises a flaming hand, seemingly ready to strike the lady. Oh hell no. Izuku leaps into action, jumping from the roof, he aims to kick the hero's hand away, but instead, it connects with his face. Oops. I definitely didn't mean to kick him in his nasty butt face, my bad. Even in his thoughts, the sarcasm is entirely evident. Reacting swiftly, Endeavor grabs Izuku by his ankle, holding his flailing body away from his face, as if he just caught a piece of trash. Recognition dawns on the hero's face as Izuku crosses his arm, glaring at Endeavor. Nightfall. You've been caught. His attention is instantly on Izuku, ignoring the woman from before. Now tell me, how is it that every person we ask about you refuses to talk? Have you been brainwashing them? Is that your quirk, boy? Izuku chooses not to answer. Instead, he takes a risk. Pulling down his mask, he spits at the number 2 hero, a smirk playing at his face. As anger courses through Endeavor's veins, his flames intensify. A searing pain shoots through Izuku's ankle as Endeavor's grip heats up, causing him to cry out. As much as he can deal with most pain, burns are an entirely different matter. Biting down on his lip, Izuku levels a glare at Endeavor. Actually, I'm quirkless. The grip on his leg tightens, causing him to grit his teeth. I refuse to give him the satisfaction. Endeavor snarls. Don't lie to me, boy. I'm taking you to the police station. You can explain yourself there. And that's how Izuku finds himself in an interrogation room, handcuffed to a table while he glares at the detective across from him. Shouter was on patrol when he received the call. Apparently, Nightfall had been apprehended, and since Eraserhead was assigned to that case, he was requested down at the station. He should have known something was off when he didn't see the kid or patrol, but he definitely hadn't expected to get a phone call saying Nightfall was caught on the whole other side of town. Nevertheless, here Shouter was, observing as the young boy sat across from Tsukochi, still donned in his full vigilante attire. He listens intently as the interrogation begins, but Nightfall doesn't give Tsukochi the chance to speak before questioning the detective. Why am I here? I haven't done anything illegal. His voice is even, calm. Detective Tsukochi, however, appears very taken aback. Before we begin, I am required to inform you that my quirk allows me to detect if the person I speak to is lying. Shouter notices, slightly confused, as the boy's eyes begin to sparkle with interest at the mention of the quirk. Despite this, his voice remains calm. And was I lying when I said I haven't done anything illegal? After a brief pause, no. So what's the problem, detective? I still have a few questions for you, Tsukochi says, ignoring the vigilante's snark. First, what's your name? Nightfall, he says, a smirk adorning his face. I meant your real name. Since I haven't done anything illegal, I don't think I have to answer that, Nightfall retorts. With a sigh, Tsukochi continues. You are correct. However, vigilantism is illegal. Are you or are you not a vigilante, Nightfall? Well, by definition, a vigilante is someone who uses their quirk as an act of preventing, investigating, or punishing perceived offenses and crimes without legal authority, correct? That is correct, Tsukochi confirms. In that case, no, I am not a vigilante. You can check my file. It clearly states that I'm quirkless. The detective pauses before pinching the bridge of his nose. I don't need to check your file, I can see you're telling the truth. Besides, since you haven't given us your name, we don't have your file on hand. So I haven't done anything illegal, since I haven't used any quirk to stop villains, the kid concludes confidently. With another sigh, Tsukochi stands. One moment. He exits the room, leaving Nightfall alone with his smug expression. Ah, Eraserhead, you're here, Tsukochi greets as he returns. Did you hear everything? Shouter nods, but before he can speak, Endeavor pushes past him aggressively. His lying, the flaming hero snarls. He obviously has a quirk. He's most likely been brainwashing the victims. The room falls silent. Shouter shoots the man a bored glare. Or, he continues, he might have a pain tolerance type quirk. When I grabbed him, he barely reacted despite being burned. Shouter swiftly turns to face the number 2 hero. You burned him? Why the hell did you lay your hands on him? Taken aback by the sudden outburst, Endeavor splutters. He kicked me in the face. I was just defending myself. I don't have to explain my actions to you, Eraserhead. Suppressing a laugh at the fact that Nightfall kicked Endeavor in the face, Shouter turns his attention back to Tsukochi. He was telling the truth, wasn't he? Nightfall? Yes, for all of it. The detective sighs. However, I suggest we keep him here a little longer. Even if he didn't use a quirk, it can't be legal to go out and attack people, even criminals. Vigilantism should apply to everyone, regardless of having a quirk or not. The others in the room nod, but Shouter hesitates. But he's a kid, Tsukochi. We just need to detain him for a while longer, Aizawa. As the detective says this, two guards escort Nightfall out of the interrogation room, handcuffed. The kid quickly spots Shouter, and with a subtle wink toward the hero, he trips. The guards lurch forward to catch him, but the room is suddenly filled with smoke. A smoke bomb? Where did the kid get those? Knowing where to look solely from the months spent following him, Shouter watches as Nightfall walks confidently out the front door of the department. Just before completely disappearing, the vigilante turns and locks eyes with Shouter through the smoke, putting up two fingers to his head in a salute. With a small smile, Shouter turns away from the door, focusing on the chaos within the room. He chuckles to himself quietly, watching as the two guards who were escorting Nightfall exchange baffled words as they discover the HNDCFFS that now bind them together. This kid is going to be the death of me, I just know it. When Izuku meets up with Eraserhead again, it's amusing to say the least. Seated on the rooftop, tending to a small cut on his arm, Izuku notices the hero quietly coming up behind him. "Hey, Eraser. Nice to see you again," he greets, without looking up, catching the hero by surprise. "I'm never going to be able to sneak up behind you, am I?" Eraserhead says this with a sigh, but Izuku can hear the amusement in his voice. "Nope. I heard you kicked Endeavor in the face." Finally looking up, Izuku smirks smugly at the tired hero. "Hell yeah, I did. He deserved it. But that was like a week ago. You gotta keep up, Eraser." Eraserhead sighs once more. "How's that burn on your leg?" He glances down at Izuku's pants, which conceal the burned area. Izuku had instantly healed, killing himself upon returning. He hates the feeling of burns, so he didn't even finish his patrol that night before. Heading home. Now, all he's left with is a nasty scar. But he can't reveal that to Eraserhead. Once again, "That was so long ago, I'm doing great," Izuku replies nonchalantly. "Kid, that was a few days ago." Izuku just shrugs, returning his gaze to the stars. "How's it going with those 3 friends you mentioned before?" There's a tinge of hesitation in the man's voice, but he asks nonetheless. "I made up with one of them, we still meet up twice a week. He only knows me as Nightfall though." After a second, he adds on, "I used to know him. He doesn't recognize me though." Eraserhead watches him curiously, absorbing every word. "And the other 2? "I've been avoiding them," Izuku grimaces. "I was so rude to my one friend, I can't face him after being such an butt. I haven't even responded to his texts in over a week. Even if I did reply, he probably wouldn't answer." He pauses, rubbing his face. "And then there's the other one. He was the first adult who actually cared for me. I'm scared he'll pry for information if I show up after leaving so abruptly." "The first adult to care for you?" Izuku shrugs. "What about your parents?" He shrugs again. Eraser sighs. "I think you should respond to your friend's text, maybe apologize, and go meet with the adult. If he truly cares about you, he should understand if you don't want to talk about it." "Says you," Izuku scoffs. "What's that supposed to mean?" Eraserhead sounds almost insulted. "You can be super effing pushy when you want to be, old man. You should take your own advice. I'm just worried about you, kid. And why do you keep calling me old? How old do you think I am?" At this, he definitely sounds offended, even as he tries to hide it. Izuku scrutinizes the hero. He has deep eye bags and the scruff of a growing beard. Probably like 35? 35? You're not even close. 38. That's the wrong direction. I'm not in my 30s. Oh, that makes so much more sense. I didn't want to be rude or anything. Eraser lets out a sigh of relief. "So you're like 42. His eyes widen, practically bulging out of his head as Izuku cackles. "I'm 29. Izuku stops laughing, staring straight into the hero's wide eyes, before beginning to laugh even harder, clutching his stomach. Eraserhead growls and looks away, but not before Izuku notices the edges of his lips curling into a smile. Izuku passes by the park on his way home, his gaze landing on the cat cafe that stands at the end. "Maybe I really should go apologize, I am hungry after all." He walks hesitantly toward the cafe, peering the window and watching as the cats play freely. A flash of blonde catches his eye as MIC emerges from the back, causing Izuku to duck under the window, hoping to go unnoticed. He stays there for a few moments, before slowly backing up. He plans to turn the corner and run for it as soon as he can. Unfortunately for him, he bumps into someone behind him. "Oh, sorry," he begins, but as he takes in the person in front of him, his eyes widen. And he clamps his mouth shut. "Effing found you, a-hole." Shinsu stands, looming over the green-haired boy and glaring daggers at him. Izuku slowly begins to back away, but Shinsu reaches out before he can escape. He grabs him by the wrist, winces, then switches his grip to Izuku's shirt instead. Sheet, he still hasn't forgotten about the scars. Shinsu drags Izuku to a bench on the other side of the park, pushes him down and sits across from him. "Aizu," he begins, but is promptly cut off. "No, let me go first." "I'm so sorry, Shinsu. I shouldn't have said all that. I'm sorry. I understand if you don't want to train together anymore." The other boy just stares at him, a shocked expression on his face that Izuku can't quite comprehend. "Aizu, no, I'm not mad at you. I don't blame you, I wanted to apologize." "What? Why?" "I shouldn't have pushed when you were clearly uncomfortable, and I shouldn't have reacted the way I did either. I'm sorry." He lowers his head, fidgeting with his hands. "I don't accept your apology." Shinsu's head snaps up, eyes widening. "Aizu dash. I don't accept it," he continues, "because you have nothing to apologize for. You didn't do anything wrong, and you shouldn't be feeling guilty." "But dash. No buts. So pull yourself out of that grave of self-pity and come train with me." Shinsu just stares after him for a moment as Izuku gets up and begins walking toward the beach, before he quickly follows suit. "And you don't have anything to apologize for either, Aizu." They exchange smiles, but then Shinsu's expression turns serious. "But please, for the love of God, don't ghost me. Please respond to your effing phone. I'm always scared I'm gonna find you dead in a ditch somewhere. I can't deal with that shit, it's not good for my heart." Izuku sheepishly looks at the ground. "Sorry. I won't do that again. I'll buy you food if you forgive me." Shinsu bumps his shoulder playfully. "Deal." Patrol had been surprisingly easy, which should have been the first red flag. However, Izuku happily jumps from rooftop to rooftop, unaware to the impending pain that awaited him. Checking the time, he realizes it's almost time to visit Bakugo. "One last fight, then I'll go." They had a schedule down after meeting up for nearly 3 weeks, and both of them being stubborn made it so that there was always a race to see who could get to the house first. Izuku quickly finds his next victims, spotting 2 men fighting in an alley. He suspects they might be rival 2 gang members from the sound of it, but he can't be certain. Regardless, someone could get seriously hurt. Without hesitation, he jumps from the roof and joins the fight. "Stay out of this." Nightfall, one man snarls, the wind beginning to blow harshly where he stands. Izuku is accustomed to being addressed by his vigilante name since so many people know of him somehow, so he doesn't startle at that. He does startle, however, when the second man pulls out a gun, aiming it at his opponent. "If you use your quirk, I'll shoot." Izuku curses under his breath and runs forward. As he does, the wind begins to intensify, skirling around the 3 of them. The second man PPS the gun. "I warned you, a-hole." The gunshot resonates throughout the whirlwind, but the bullet doesn't hit its intended target. No, it hits Izuku. He seeks in a breath as the wind dies down, and the 2 men freeze momentarily, before putting aside their differences and fleeing the scene. Izuku places his hand to his stomach, pulling it back to see it covered in blood. "Shit. I need to get home. I can text Bakugo and let him know I can't make it once I'm there." However, as he reaches for his phone, he realizes he no longer has Bakugo's number saved after his old phone broke. "Shit." Shinsu's words echo through his mind, lecturing Izuku for ghosting him. "Goddamnit. I can't just leave without explaining. He's gonna be mad at me if I do." He quickly bandages the still bleeding wound, and determines that he is stable enough to make a brief stop at his old house. I'll just tell him I'll meet him on Thursday and that I can't stay today. Yeah, that'll work. It won't. As Izuku slowly limps toward the house, he prays that the darkness will conceal his blood-stained clothing. Clumsily climbing to the rooftop, he pauses once he's fully pulled himself, catching his breath. His vision grows blurry as he stands on the edge. Oi, rat. Took you long enough. F dash. Bakugo walks over, but stops before getting too close. I came to say that I can't stay. I'll see why you on Thursday. Izuku stutters out, his words slurring together slightly. The F dash? Is that blood? What happened? Bakugo's voice is filled with concern as he steps closer to Izuku. Unfortunately, Izuku can no longer decipher the words that come out of the blonde's mouth. F dash, it hurts. Feeling lightheaded, his vision becomes blotchy, and his eyes flutter closed. He tries to focus on Bakugo's voice, but it's too faint, too distant. He feels himself tilting backwards. As his consciousness begins to fade, a hand grips his arms, and at last, he can finally discern Bakugo's desperate words, hearing him cry out as he falls backwards. Izuku! He's late. Why's that rat so late? Katsuki sits on the rooftop of Izuku's old house, waiting for Nightfall's arrival. But when the vigilante finally appears, his impatience turns to concern. The hooded figure is limping down the street. Limping? He struggles to pull himself onto the roof, taking much longer than normal. Something is clearly wrong. Oi, rat. Took you long enough. Why is he holding his stomach like that? What's wrong with him? I came to say that I can't stay. I'll see why you on Thursday, the boy stutters as he stands precariously on the edge of the roof. His hand falls to his side, revealing red-stained bandages around his midsection. The F dash? Is that blood? What happened? Katsuki takes a step closer, his concern turning into fear. Nightfall? What the F happened? He demands, but the vigilante shows no sign that he heard him at all. Rat? Nightfall. Look at me. Katsuki snaps his fingers in front of the boy's face, but his eyes flutter closed. F dash. Panic rises within Katsuki as a gust of wind suddenly sweeps through, blowing off Nightfall's hood and revealing a head full of viridian green hair. Just like... He begins to tilt backwards. Katsuki's eyes widen in horror. Izuku! He screams, lunging forward. He grabs onto the boy's arms at the last moment, pulling him back onto the roof. No, 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 no. Don't do this to me, Izuku, Katsuki pleads, laying the limp body on the roof and checking for a pulse. He finds a faint, irregular one. Racking his brain for any past knowledge, Katsuki places his hands on the other's chest and starts CPR, his tears mingling with his desperate attempts to revive the vigilante. Come on, Izuku, wake up. He continues the compressions, with gasping breaths of his own. You can't save anyone when you're breaking down yourself, idiot. He tries to regain control of his fast breathing, with little success, but presses on. He pauses the compressions to check for a pulse again. He finds none. F dash. Wake up, you JK. Katsuki's voice breaks as tears stream down his face. He no longer attempts to hold back his sobs. Don't do this. Don't die on me again. Please Izu, wake up. His tears fall on Izuku's face, but the green-haired boy doesn't react. Katsuki pulls him onto his lap, holding him tightly. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I wasn't fast enough. This is all my fault. Please, wake up Izu. Wake up. He continues to sob, clutching the lifeless body of his childhood friend. I can't lose you again, not after you just got here. Please, please don't leave me. Katsuki whispers, but there's no response to his pleas. Katsuki has finally calmed down. Well, as calm as he can be, with his best friend having died twice now. Best friend? Who am I kidding? At least he's no longer having a panic attack. Instead, after he ran out of tears, he was left in a state of numbness. After tirelessly attempting CPR for what felt like an eternity, rain began to fall. So Katsuki did what any logical person would do. He kicked down the boarded-up door of Izuku's old house and placed the body in his childhood bedroom. Katsuki's throat had grown raw from screaming, though his screams were not directed at Izuku. Well, some of them were. But mostly he had screamed at himself. At the universe. At the stars that did nothing as Izuku's innocent soul was taken. Now, he sits curled in a ball across the room from where his friend's lifeless body lies. He had unzipped Nightfall's mask momentarily, just to confirm that it was truly Izuku, but he quickly zipped it back up after. He couldn't bear to look at the pale, scarred skin. In all reality, Katsuki had suspected that Nightfall could be Izuku for weeks now. Too many coincidences, those eyes, that voice, his habits too. Sure, he's more confident and self-assured now. But that doesn't change the fact that he mumbles when lost in thought, or how he picks at his hands when nervous, or the glint he gets in his eyes when talking about heroes. Not to mention, the idiot slipped up and called him Kaken multiple times, practically confirming all of Katsuki's suspicions. Only a complete idiot wouldn't be able to put the pieces together, and Katsuki sure as hell was no idiot. He doesn't sleep that night, his thoughts too loud. Too filled with the past, with regret. Too many scenarios of ways he could have been different, better. So as the hours passed, Katsuki sits wide awake and just watches, eyes fixated on Izuku's lifeless form. Waiting. As if Izuku will suddenly sit up and smile at him, just like he used to. But of course he doesn't. His body remains cold and motionless, unresponsive on the hard floor. Until he sits up. Groaning, Izuku slowly rises, feeling disoriented. Why am I on the floor? What happened? DMN it. I hate not having all my memories, he thinks bitterly, cursing his quirk side effects. A gasp from the other side of the room catches Izuku's attention, and his eyes go wide. F-. Why is Bakugo here? The blonde is sitting pressed against the back wall, gaping at Izuku, his face as pale as a ghost. What the F-? Am I hallucinating? Oh F-, the lack of sleep must be getting to me. F-. Bakugo mutters, shutting his eyes tightly and burying his head between his knees. Sheet. Izuku tries to stand, wanting to comfort the trembling blonde or maybe to escape, but as soon as he gets to his feet, he collapses. I forgot this happens when I bleed out on an empty stomach. I'll just stay down here for a moment. Bakugo stares at the collapsed body for a good few minutes before finally moving. He creeps to the boy's side and places 2 fingers on his neck, checking for a pulse. After a sigh of relief, Izuku assumes he found one. You better effing explain everything, de Nightfall, Bakugo demands, but his voice trembles, giving away his true emotion. Duh? Izuku sighs. I will just, give me a second. Stay here. And then he's gone. After a little while, Bakugo returns with food. He sits across from Izuku and pushes a packed bento toward him. Eat. And explain. It's my quirk. I revive after death, Izuku states, turning away from the explosive boy to eat his food. That's not possible. Your Nightfall's supposed to be quirkless. Besides, there's no quirks like that. They don't effing exist. Okay. Izuku stares at the back of the frustrated blonde's head. Then how the F am I still here? Bakugo has no answer. How many times have you died? He seems hesitant to hear the answer, speaking in a low voice. Izuku finishes his food and re-zips his mask as he thinks. Well, I'll have to check my notebook to be completely sure. Notebook? Really? What? I like to keep track so I can learn how to improve my quirk. Izuku defends himself. Bakugo scoffs. Sure, nerd. So how many times? Well, I believe it's around 63 times in total now, but I might be a bit off. 63? What the F are you doing on patrol to die so much? I thought you were supposed to be a good fighter. I'm not dying on patrol every time, really. Izuku protests. Then how the F are you dying so much? Bakugo demands, suspicion evident in his voice. Only about half were from patrol. Probably less than half honestly, Izuku admits, avoiding eye contact by picking at his nail beds. And? Are people killing you when you're not on patrol or some shit? No. Come on, rat. Spill it. The other ones were suicide. There. I said it. I wonder if he's going to be mad, maybe disgusted. Instead, silence follows, his words hanging heavy in the air. Izuku finally meets Bakugo's eyes, watching as his face grows pale, his eyes widening in horror. In an attempt to alleviate the tension, Izuku continues to speak. Only about 20 were actual attempts to kill myself though. Maybe closer to 15, actually. But the other times, I didn't want to actually die and never wake up, I just wanted to sleep or heal. So it's really not that bad. I mean, sure I wouldn't be upset if I didn't wake up, but I wasn't going to sleep and actively seeking death. It's just become a routine. It's really not that bad at all. As he rambles on, Bakugo's face only grows paler. For the love of God, stop talking. You're making this so much worse, Bakugo groans, finally interrupting. Izuku snaps his mouth closed, staring at Bakugo who holds out his hand expectantly. Your phone. You have a phone, right? Yeah? Why do you want it? Despite the question, he places his phone in the other's hand. After a few seconds of typing, Bakugo hands it back. I added myself to your contacts. He levels a glare at the green-haired boy. If you die somewhere on patrol or can't get home, call me. I'll come get you. Got it, rat? Izuku nods, a soft smile tugging at his lips. He knows he'll never actually call Bakugo for help, but it's comforting to have his number again. As Izuku walks home after assuring Bakugo he would be okay, the sense that he's missing something lingers in the back of his mind. Something that happened right before I died? All I remember is a surge of happiness and hope? But I can't recall why. I guess it's not important. I'll remember eventually. After grabbing his bag and changing into fresh clothes, Izuku heads toward the cat cafe. He wants a quiet place to write mainly, but also hopes to make amends with present MIC. As soon as he walks into the cafe, Izuku is swarmed by cats. They circle his feet, purring loudly for affection. Finding a booth near the back, he settles down, pulling out his notebook and pen. Not being able to give Bakugo the exact number of deaths had been bothering him. So he reads through the pages, recalculating his death count. I was a little off. For nearly 3 months, Izuku has died almost every day. He had stopped dying on patrol after the second month, and although occasional deaths still occur, it was much more common for Izuku to end his life after returning home. Lost in thought, he doesn't notice the familiar head of blonde hair making its way to the table. Hey little listener, I missed you. Izuku offers MIC a small smile before returning his attention to his notebooks. I saw you entering and thought I'd bring over some food and water for you, MIC continues. I was worried when I didn't see you for a little while, but I'm glad you seem to be doing much better today. He thanks the older hero before starting to eat, still immersed in his own thoughts. MIC thankfully doesn't interrupt or press, he simply sits across from the hungry boy, absorbed in his book. I've died so much in the last few months, I wish I didn't have this stupid quirk. He sighs, continuing to eat. Why can't they just take it away? A light bulb suddenly goes off in Izuku's head. He jumps up in his seat, catching MIC's curious glance. There is someone who can take it away. And I even have his phone number. Swiftly finishing his meal, Izuku shovels the remaining food into his mouth and shoves his books back in his bag. He offers a quick goodbye and thank you to the perplexed blonde before dashing out the door. Izuku runs all the way home, not stopping once to catch his breath. He feels freer than he's felt in a long time. As he arrives home, he rips out 4 pages from his notebook and gets to work. The sun goes down just as Izuku finishes sealing his last letter. Cheerfully donning his nightfall gear, Izuku grabs his phone and sends a quick text to his 2 friends. With a satisfied smile, he begins his patrol. Katsuki was attempting to sleep when he receives the message. Normally, he would ignore any text he gets after 9 p.m., but having personalized ringtones for every contact in his phone proves advantageous at times. He instantly sits up and grabs his phone, a small swell of fear building in his chest. Shitty rooftop rat, hey it's me, I'm not hurt or anything but if I don't text you by this time TW, meet me at this location. Shitty rooftop rat, map.jpg. For a moment, Katsuki just stares at the message, not understanding what it means. You, TF? I'm not going. Why would I want to meet you there? He gets no response. I'm seriously not going unless you give me more info. Still, silence. Okay, if you will go, but if you're dead, I'll kill you. The messages aren't even being read. Katsuki has a feeling that something is wrong, but instead of listening to the feeling, he turns off his phone and goes back to bed. As he prepares to begin his patrol, Shouter's phone suddenly rings. Who would be calling this late? Glancing at the caller ID, his eyes widen. Incoming call from Problem Child. Shouter hastily answers the call, practically shoving the phone against his face. What's wrong? The voice on the other end laughs. Absolutely nothing, Eraser. I do need to ask a favor of you, though. I need your help. Shouter listens carefully as the kid tells him where to meet, assuring Nightfall that he will be right there. He sounds happy? No, that's not quite right. He sounded satisfied, but not in a normal way. What could he want? Despite his suspicion, Shouter hurries to meet Nightfall, finding him on the roof of a nearby building. As soon as he spots the kid, Shouter can sense that something is wrong. Nightfall stands carefreely on the roof, gazing up at the sky. There's something off about his body language, as if he's bidding farewell to his surroundings. He doesn't seem fully present. What can I help you with? Shouter's voice causes the kid to turn his gaze to the hero, but his vision appears blurry, not fully focused. As soon as Nightfall spots him, a huge smile breaks across the kid's face. He stares at Shouter, although it feels as if he's looking past him. Eraserhead. I'm so glad you're here. Can you kill me? Izuku watches as Eraserhead pales, taking a step backward. Why does he look so taken aback by that? When the hero doesn't immediately respond, Izuku continues talking. I know heroes aren't supposed to kill and all, but I'm a bad vigilante and whatnot, so it would be doing society a favor. I'm quirkless too, so even better. He realizes he misspoke about being quirkless, but it doesn't matter at this point. Eraserhead just stares, his eyes wide and mouth agape. I'm not going to kill you. Why dash? Please, Eraser. Despite his attempts to conceal it, desperation seeps into Izuku's voice, infusing every word. Only you can do it. Please. After a shocked pause, the hero begins to protest even more. Why is he being so difficult? I don't see the problem here. Maybe I should approach this from a different angle. You're right, don't kill me. But can I still ask you a favor? Izuku continues before the hero can give an answer. I've always been curious about what your quirk would feel like as a quirkless person. Could you use it on me? Just for a moment? Eraserhead continues staring, unable to process everything that just transpired. In what must be an act of pity, he finally nods. Okay, I'll use my quirk on you. But afterward, we need to talk about what you said before, okay? Izuku happily nods. There won't be an after. With a sigh, the hero activates his erasure and looks into Izuku's green eyes. And in an instant, Izuku has a knife in his hand, pressing it against his throat. He had researched the quickest ways to die, and with his supplies, slashing his throat seemed like the best option. Thanks, Eraser. Izuku forcefully pushes the blade of the knife against his throat and drags it across the tender skin of his neck in one swift motion.